Well, good afternoon to you. At least it's noon right here in Texas. Hmm. I know somebody's going to tell me about my audio here in a minute. Hello, George. Grindle Dark. You coming to Houston again, brother? You know our round tables are fun. Getting better every time. All right, good. Thank you, guys. So we have a few announcements. Last night, Dawn again went to the emergency room. Something that developed last year that got misdiagnosed and it caused problems because they gave her the wrong medicine, and she's been paying for it. She's a trooper. She's a trooper. She's a fighter. We remember she went to San Diego, not even knowing what was wrong with her. She still wanted to go to San Diego. She went to San Diego trip with us, did the meetup, but yeah, she's in the hospital paying for it now. So I'm hoping they schedule that surgery real quick. I was with her till 2:15 this morning, and yeah, I came back and got some rest. Her friend Kelly goes and looks out for Big John. Big John's been with her. He just left. And I know her family's been calling me all morning. Uh, they'll be there this afternoon. And after this video, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take my little mobile studio. Remember, I was in the hospital last time. I'll take my whole little mobile studio. No, nothing stops. I'll be in the hospital doing videos. So, let's see. So yeah, best wishes for Dawn. I will convey them. She's been asleep for 2 days. They got her heavily medicated. So I will convey your love. And of course, she'll see the chat section too after she gets up after this video. Maybe later on this evening, she'll look through the chat. All right. So I got plenty of moderators in here. I appreciate it. Yeah. Let's see. I'm reading this book right now. Yeah, this is Prehistoric Races of the United States, 1895. Just going through it. It's really interesting to follow how when you read a book published in like 1980 or 2022 on anthropology and archaeology, you're given this idea that it's just so conclusive that such and such artifact from such and such layer of dirt shows us the pre-pottery Neolithic. This is exactly 8,000 to 10,000 BC. We know this date. This is what this is dated as. It is so absolutely stupid because when you read the older books, when you go back through these texts and you find out how they systematized that chronology, it is retarded. What is passed off as fact today was a bunch of suppositions back then in 1895 that were 100% from a uniformitarian mindset. This is Prehistoric Races of the United States. It's explaining how they had developed this dating system. And it completely, guys, the 3895 BC Adam and Eve reset. We'll talk about it here in a minute. That was just the third great cataclysm. The one before that was the capture of Nuna. When the moon first appeared, it caused a great flood. That was in 4039 BC. Before that was the Nemesis cataclysm, 5239 BC, that started this whole time series of calendars and timelines for us now. Though just those three disasters alone buried a lot of stuff. Yeah, we're going to get into it. How many different times there's been resets. I have a whole chart. Many of you have seen it. I've shown there's documented 30-something resets in just 5,800 years of recorded human history. There's over 30 documented resets. Oh my God, man. So if the current scientific paradigm dates things in anthropology by a system that completely ignores reset phenomenon, and all these multiple diluvian deposits of strata that have been laid down, then you can throw it all out the window. Yeah, you can throw it all out the window, as I've shown in Archaix multiple times. Even the scientists claim carbon-14 all the relative dating methods from dendrochronology, and all these people citing ice core data like it's something real. It's not real. It's not real. If you are taking core samples from ice caps in the Arctic, Iceland, and the Antarctic, and you're claiming that certain depths concern certain years, and at the same time, we have maps from the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th century that show all those regions free of ice. We have a problem, and that problem is you practicing exclusions. Same thing Charles Fort talked about, practicing exclusions. Remember, in Archaix, the reason we have this, when we're going to go through it today, but the reason we have this prolific abundance of chronological data is because we don't practice exclusions. Every anomaly of the ancient and modern world must fit somewhere in the paradigm, and they all do. This is what we're going to talk about right here, because a lot of people have been turned off by the Archaix output simply because it's attached to the idea of simulation theory. But what I'm going to reveal to you today is over 100 data points, and not one of these, when they're all attached to data sets, not one of them requires simulation theory. It is the amalgamation of so much complex data that has led me to personally conclude that we live in a construct, and that construct is a simulated environment of somewhere else that is actually real when we're not. That's my conclusion. And many of you have assumed that conclusion as well because you are intelligent triers of facts, and you've been able to delineate fact from fiction and go through the material and say, damn, Jason was onto something. Look at this. And you find, and you do your own research, and you find more evidence to support that. And then a lot of you are turned off by it, but you're still here because the information is so compelling. And I applaud that. It means that you had the intellectual capacity to defy cognitive dissonance in order to put aside the very things that you disagree with to find value in what you do. And that right there shows intelligence. So that's all I want to start off with real quick. Get a few people in here. I normally start my presentation once we got 1,000 people in the chat. Cat Pimp Do, I have never seen your handle before. He asked a question. Did any of these civilizations achieve the tech level of having the internet? I believe that the pre-flood world was more technologically advanced than our own. 100%. This is the reason why after the post-cataclysm period, humans were writing on clay tablets. What are you going to write on clay tablet for? What did you know about in the ancient world? Why was it a tablet that was important for you to write on? You could have wrote on all kinds of surfaces. Why was it important to you to make something that looked like a tablet and then to put knowledge on it? Why? It's because that's what they knew from the ancient world. They knew that the gods, cargo cult phenomenon, they were just humans, but they knew that these gods in the ancient past, which was before the flood, which was only a couple centuries earlier, they knew that this is how they conveyed information. Yeah, you sound Cat Pimp, you sound kind of new to my channel, but those who have been here for a while know that I believe 100% all the calendars of the world are telling us a story, and that story is that we're on a loop. That loop is recorded in the Bible. The Bible is a book of good and evil. It is never claimed to be anything else. It is always, the Bible is self-referencing. It claims itself to be the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A book is nothing but a tree that has been built into something. It contains knowledge. The Bible contains both the truth and error. It is up for the divine immortal inside the construct to understand their place within this narrative. Where you decide your coordinates inside the narrative is how the construct will feed back information to you. It will always feed you the information you already believe. That's why when you accept new information, it opens up new possibilities and new pathways of experience. Yeah, it's real hard to break free from dungeon programming, and that's what belief systems are. That's what religions are. That's what philosophies are. This is what politics are. The duality of politics, picking a side of anything, is all a part of dungeon programming. But that's what the errant's about. Errant goes another way. The knight errant is the master errant who understands not only that they're in a construct, but how to use the construct to their advantage. So let's see. All right. Other news item. You guys know I sent Billy Carson an email. I did it only because somebody shared an email with me, and Billy was real nasty. Billy Carson was real nasty. I don't think when he wrote that email that he realized that I was in publishing and had books published before he was even on the map. Before anybody even knew the name Billy Carson, I already had books published, and I did it from a prison cell. And I did it because my bibliographies are fantastic. And I achieved that in 2006, my first published book. And I did it with a publisher, Paul Tice, who I've shown pictures of right here with Zechariah Sitchin on my channel. Paul Tice was the personal friend and videographer for Zechariah Sitchin himself. Paul Tice is my publisher. Paul Tice believed the Earth Chronicles. He believed the Anunnaki narrative. He believed all this. And when I first submitted my Lost Scriptures book, he loved it. He went through the bibliography and said, man, this is amazing. I got to share this with the Manly P. Hall Society. I've got to share this manuscript with Jordan Maxwell. Jordan Maxwell is a personal friend of Paul Tice. Jordan Maxwell had read my book, Lost Scriptures of Giza, and had agreed with Paul Tice to do a chat with me. But I didn't get out of prison until 2016, and by then Jordan Maxwell was already had problems. And you guys know he passed away, and my chance to talk to Jordan was over with. But that's okay. I got a pat on the back from the man after he read my manuscript. But Paul Tyson shared my research with a lot of people. Then I submitted my Phoenix Phenomenon book, my very first book, When the Sun Darkens, in 2007. In 2009, he published it. Then my third book was Anunnaki Homeworld. And that one, my publisher loved the book, but he was really messed up by the fact that I was correcting Zechariah Sitchin. And I had to, in a series of letters I exchanged with my publisher, listen, man, you need to get over this idea that the man was infallible, and you need to just use common sense and look at the data. There is no way that shars could ever mean years, because it puts the Anunnaki story 500,000 years ago when the archaeology shows it was only 4,500 years ago. We have a problem, and there's a simple rectification. That rectification was mentioned by people 2,000 years ago who claimed Berosus made a mistake. But Berosus is the sole source of Zechariah Sitchin for claiming the shar was a year. So once I corrected that, once my publisher looked at it, then he saw how the Vedic, the Olmec, the Mayan, the Quiche, the Zapotec, and all other chronologies of the world fit perfectly. And the Hebrew Jubilee system, even the Freemasonic Annus Mundi system that was borrowed from ancient Alexandria. You guys have seen my charts. All the calendars, when laid out, they sync perfectly once you take. All the Vedic does too. Remember, all the Vedic ones are in multiples of 144,000 years, but they're actually 216,000, 324,000, 432,000, 648,000, 720,000, 864,000, but they're not years. They're simply days, which reduces all those periods to the 600-year periods, 216,000 days. 600-year periods of the Anunnaki nerve system, which I've shown in all my chronologies. It is amazing. Every 600 years was 216,000 days. 2 of those periods was 1,200 years, which is the 432,000 turnings of the stars of the Kali Yuga system and of the Sumerian records that talk about the appearance of the gods, the Anuna. 432,000 turnings of the stars, shars before the Great Flood. So I've beat this up over and over and over. You guys have heard it on my channel so many times. People like Billy Carson and others, they don't want to entertain this data because it unravels so many of the assumptions that they have made. So I didn't know that Billy Carson was that nasty, but he is. And Yeah, I didn't quote everything in that post the other day in my personal email to Billy, calling him out to a debate on this issue. It's I didn't, but the dude said some other things. He said that people like me dream about being like him, and that I need his name because I'm a nobody. And yeah, he got real nasty. So his personality is really toxic. There's nothing spiritual about this guy that I can perceive whatsoever. It's some artificial spirit, some artificial guru, fill your pockets with money type spirituality. It doesn't sound any different to me than the televangelist that I've told you guys are nothing but living demons today. So I don't, you know what? I don't know. I don't even care. The dude is so beneath me. And I'm for a fact, he's listening right now. I know because his last 3 rants on YouTube, he's getting unraveled. So Billy, you need to get your shit together. Don't worry about it. You ain't got to worry about me bullying you because that's all it is. Because you're absolutely unqualified to be in the court with me. So I understand why you're not answering that email. But he's not the only one about to get that email. Several of them are. Because I'm going to do a full video telling all you guys, everybody in the truther community who doesn't want to come to the table, who doesn't want to debate. Anybody who refuses to debate is hiding something. It's simple as that. If you know your material and you're putting out material for public consumption, you need to defend the integrity of what you're putting out instead of getting on YouTube and crying like a little girl to a whole public, a bunch of people about people getting on your ass because you making that money. Because Billy Carson said this morning. I got billboards of me in New York City. Oh yeah, he said that. He says I'm a 140. Listen, if Billy Carson's IQ is 140, then he wasted those IQ points on irrelevant information that has absolutely nothing to do with the real history of the world. I don't believe he has a 140 IQ. I believe that's a lie, but it doesn't even matter. I don't have a 140 IQ. My IQ was measured at 119 when I was 17 years old. I know this for a fact because they do IQ tests for everybody going in to the Texas prison system. It is the only IQ test I've ever had. I was 17 years old. The IQ test was 119, excuse me. It was 119, and I've never been tested since. But that was back when I was just a teenage dumbass. That was way before I went into this whole life career of just reading all these books. So I don't know. Yeah, man. Really, really disenchanted with the man. Really disenchanted with the man. You would think somebody would want to defend the information they've been putting out since they're so confident about it. I mean, why would you be scared to debate somebody with an 8th grade education? Why? What are you hiding? We're going to get to the bottom of it because I know a lot of people are going to ignore my emails. And once I have that growing body of people, I'm going to start publishing it. I'm going to start blasting it on my Twitter and social media. I'm going to start embarrassing these men. I have no problem embarrassing people that are hiding something. That's very easy for me to do. So that's what's going to go down, guys. Yeah, people ain't going to be sending emails back and forth talking stupid about me. Think I'm going to take it. I'm not the one. All right. Yeah, a whole bunch of people have interviewed Billy, and they're going to get an opportunity too to interview me. And if they refuse that interview, I'm going to put them on blast. I'm going to start putting that whole list together of all these people. I'm going to show you guys who's gatekeeping and who's not. It's going to be real apparent. It's going to be real apparent. Oh, let's see. I saw Funky Prepper in there. Funky Prepper, you in the chat? Hey man, send me an email. We need to go ahead and schedule our second seal decode. I'll do a decode on the second seal because the true year 2024 is coming up fast, guys. It's in 4 more days. Oh, this is a leap year. So in 5 more days, the true 2024 will be here. The year will flip over. Remember, March is the first month of the ancient year system. And that's how the Olympiads work, and the elite are operating by the Olympiad calendar. This is what's going on. We're going to talk about the first seal in this video right here too. Video might go on a little while. This video might go on a little while, man, but yeah. We got things to cover. So now you guys know, as a simulationist, there's just many things that there are many data sets that I have brought to the table that are very unique right here. And I have so much information that many of you have completely forgotten some of the topics I'm going to address right now. Totally forgotten that I've done this. Because I'm real OCD. When I latch onto a topic, I do full 360 spectrum research on it, and then I unleash all the data on YouTube. And it's overwhelming. You guys tell me all the time, damn, that one video is overwhelming. I had to watch it 4 times. I get it. I get it. Here's one topic right here. You remember? Uh, I recently did a video on the whole entire world being flash frozen. Evidence. Listen, flash frozen world, whole entire ecosystems turned to stone. I'm not talking about just biological organisms. I'm not talking about just flora and fauna. I'm even talking about as the ground, plants, and animals all turn to stone, the Medusa effect. At the same time, all the oceans, all the way to the bottom, flash froze. How did that happen? How do we have the archaeological proof today of fossilized jellyfish in the thousands, clams with the shells still closed, meaning they died in situ like that? They didn't die by any other means, because if they did, they would have had time for their jaws the jaw muscles to relax. Those hinge muscles relax in death. And scallops and clams and oysters, the shells open, but that's not what's being found. Whole fossil beds full, as if they were in life. And proof of this are the jellyfish. How do you turn a jellyfish into stone, especially when it's at a 1/4 mile depth of salt water? How do you do that? This isn't an anomaly, guys. This is not like a lightning bolt that came from the sky and went into the water and hit that jellyfish. This is the entire effing world. We have thousands of jellyfish specimens. We have hundreds of millions of specimens of fossilized earthworms, inchworms, tree roots, grass roots. Yeah, petrified tree roots. Even the soil turned to stone. How did that happen? How did animals fighting each other, fangs deep in each other, claws scraping each other, in the middle of a fight, get flash frozen, locked in combat? Jason's not making this up. My video shows the pictures. Hundreds of pictures of a flash frozen world. Remember, if I can show that anything happened somewhere, it probably happened everywhere. That's one of the Archaix research tenets. How? You think this was an anomaly? What about all the creatures that were, listen, on land and in sea? All the creatures that were flash frozen, petrified, turned to stone as they were giving birth to other creatures. How did that happen? It means it was instantaneous. Whatever happened to the world from the highest mountain to the deepest part of the ocean and turned to stone everything in the world. If that's true, and the archaeological record shows it to be true, how do we know? Because we have specimens of fossilized plankton. Plankton. Tiny little pieces of plankton that should disappear if you just touch them. But they didn't disappear. They were petrified into stone. If this is true, and we know it is by virtue of the hundreds of millions of fossils that we have found, and just looking at the topography of our world, we can tell that our world was something else at one time, and it completely flash froze, and the oceans flash froze, and the land masses turned to stone instantly. Here's the problem with that scenario. As I showed in my video, the fossils of all the rodents, the insects, the avian forms, the reptiles, amphibians, and even some of the mammalian forms, they're all in your backyard today. Butterfly wings, fossilized. Dragonfly wings with the veins and membranes, perfectly preserved. How? Every one of these creatures is alive today. They're alive today. So what happened? I have a theory, but if everything that died then is alive today, who turned off the switch? And when the switch was turned back on, how did they all reappear? Now, I've told you on my channel over and over, I've even quoted authors who have a strange theory in 1950s, like Ivar Zapp and some other guys. They have a strange theory. And that theory is they even knew they sounded crazy, but they said going over the abundance of Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon evidence, it is inescapable. This, I'm quoting them. It is inescapable that it seems like human populations are just suddenly introduced into the ecosphere, and their memory is programmed and intact, as if somebody is observing their behavior and watching how they'll develop, because we have no archaeological chains of link that links all these different groups that just suddenly appeared. I agree with them, but I can't mention what this video was not about. Remember? I can't mention it. But it doesn't change the fact that we found all these things and we can confirm, yes, the entire world was turned to stone. The entire world. And because we know that the evidence of these fossils are at the top of mountains, and we have found the evidence of these fossils in the bottom of the ocean beds, and some of these creatures that were at the bottom of the ocean beds later became on land masses, and we found those fossils. But when they were turned to stone, they were very much alive. Even the suction cups on octopus have been preserved perfectly. I show all those pictures on my channel in that video. Maybe one of my moderators can put the link in there to my last video when the whole world was froze. I have 2 or 3 videos about that topic, but it was my last video that I went off and just like a 3.5-hour presentation showing some amazing stuff. Now, that's fossil plankton, fossilized jellyfish. We can't get it. It's inescapable. We can't get around that. So if the whole world died, and it died recently, because all these life forms, they exist today. They're in your backyard today, or in your area. So in my chronology, I know that this happened in 5239 BC. Was there history before that? Of course, but it has nothing to do with the Archaix output. Archaix only preserves the historical record. Anything prior to that is all theoretical. And in order to bring order out of chaos, the Masonic controlled establishment has imposed arbitrary systems like potassium argon dating, ice core dating, dendrochronology, carbon 14, and a host of other relative dating methods. And equally so, other scientists have all come forth and called every single one of those systems out for being the bullshit that they are. But these are put out by Masonic controlled establishment in order to bring order out of chaos. Because everything before 5239 BC is chaos. We don't know. Archaix only sticks with the human historical record. And fortunately, everything fits in there. We don't know what happened before 5239 BC. It may have been us moving forward 60 years from now when we get totally reset and we start back in the past again. But then again, the Nemesis Cataclysm is a theory popularized not by me, but by other researchers who claim that our system once had 2 suns. It once had 2 suns. Now, I'm going to separate a paradigm for you. I got a lot of flat earthers who listen to me who get triggered because I'm still talking about solar systems and stars and all that, when I've openly admitted over and over and over the entire sky is a lie. The stellosphere is pure programming. It is a lie. It is a multi-tiered holographic field that actually even mimics parallax. But they don't, these flat earthers don't understand how deep this goes. In order to build an artificial reality, you must start with a flat plane. All curvature then is just programming. You're building, it's like a Star Trek holodeck. But all the evidence leads to a very startling scientific idea. And that is that we are inside of a construct, and it's a hollow field on the inside, but the outside of the construct is a Dyson shell. This Dyson shell is a massive super construction that has all kinds of engineering and mechanical protocols to make the hollow field more realistic. It's mimicking a galaxy, and it's mimicking a solar system as best that it can from the observer's perspective. This is where all the mistakes come in. So this is our true experience right now. We are contained. Now, that has nothing to do with simulation theory at all. At all. That could be actual 100% reality. Further, we could be, now this is simulation theory, we could actually be in a simulated Dyson shell to mimic a real Dyson shell situation that humans have found themselves in outside of this simulacrum construct that we are experiencing. And this was created by us to try and figure out how we got into that. This is the theory that I have promoted over and over and over on my channel in different ways because the evidence keeps pointing to this. The evidence keeps pointing to the fact that we are in a simulated environment. And I'm always producing these data sets, but these data sets don't require anyone to accept simulation theory, but they do lean real heavily to the idea that we're in a confined construct and that this entire experience may be created by us on the outside in order to figure out how we got inside that construct. So we're going to stick with the data sets today. I'll just give you a little bit of background on the Archaix paradigm. These are my conclusions. They're not required of you. They only come by a lifetime of analysis of so many anomalies that only make sense in that context. So you don't need that to understand that we have 100% proof the entire world was flash frozen and fossilized. So it begs the question, where did life come from after that? How was it introduced, and why is it so exact? Why are butterflies in the fossil record absolutely identical to the butterflies in your backyard today? Why? These are questions you need to answer. Who turned off the switch? And did life just suddenly reappear everywhere in the same forms and fashions, in the same flora and fauna, in the same ecosystems, in the same temperature grades, in the same atmospheric pressures? All this happened when somebody just turned the switch back on? What happened? You tell me. I'm just giving you the facts. You tell me how it was possible. So I believe the stellosphere is Dyson shell technology. And I've showed you guys in my presentations on the Phoenix phenomenon how the variable stars give up their positions. They show that there is communication in the sky between all the red stars that blink and go bright and dim. Astronomers have always been mystified by variable stars because they're not like the other stars in the sky. Variable stars are all red. Not only that, they also are the only stars in the sky that change their magnitudes over and over. At any given time, when photos are taken of the night sky, variable stars are not going to be the same as they were photographed before. Their magnitudes change. Sometimes they can't even be seen. Other times they're almost the brightest lights in the sky. When the Phoenix phenomenon occurs, I have theorized that because these variable stars start acting up a lot right before the Phoenix reappears every 138 years, I theorize that those variable stars are projectors that are actually creating the very phenomena that we observe in the sky. They also create earthquake phenomena, volcanic phenomena, tsunamis, all that. So we have you don't need simulation theory for any of that at all. At all. You don't need simulation theory for the fact that we have traditions right now inside this construct. In our own historical record, we have traditions of races of people who remember that they lived in a world without a moon. There was no moon in the sky. And they claim when the moon appeared, a great flooding killed off a lot of people, caused a disaster when the moon appeared. Other races later on claimed that races of jinn and demons had descended from the moon, but the moon wasn't always in the sky. Now, Velikovsky, Hans Horberger, Hans Bellamy, these men they call it the capture flood, and we have a definitive date in Archaix for that. It was 4039 BC. But that would have caused massive burying in sediments and sedimentation everywhere. So this completely befuddles the anthropological dating systems that have been imposed upon us. The very fact that these Diluvian resets are ignored so they can properly date things far older than they actually are, like Göbekli Tepe, like Catalhuyuk, like Jericho. They're all in the historical record. They all fit in the pre-flood world, but we've given them impossible dates based off uniformitarian and mistaken premises, like this book in 1895, where it explains that we got our dating system for all these cultures by simply how deep they were buried in the ground. So if you have a mud flood, all of a sudden, that's 100,000 years old. How do you know? Because it took us 17.5 feet to dig it out, and we found that seashell right there, and we carbon dated that seashell, and it told us it's 100,000 years old. Case closed. Case closed right there. Published by a 29th degree Freemason, put into the record by the Royal Astronomy Society, that it had something to do with some star here, and there they got their proof, published 150 years later. Here it is, 2022, 2023, 2024. You and I are reading things on Twitter, things on YouTube, things on Facebook, where they find some major discovery. Look at this. Oh, they automatically slap a date on it. And people don't understand. Every modern date by science today is based off this erroneous system that was implemented in the 1800s. That's why I don't buy any of that shit. So that's uniformitarianism. All right. So somebody said, bad pup, the moon reflects the continents of Earth is what you're looking at in the craters. The craters are Earth's continents. Okay, that's a theory. No one's been able to prove that. No one's been able to prove that at all. I would like to believe that the moon is holographic. However, I'm also open to the idea that the moon is a projecting aperture at the top of the Dyson shell, and that we're not moving at all. We're stationary. Imagine a flat plane stationary world. All this world believes they're on a globe because the stellosphere has nothing but curvature mathematics attached to it. Everything moves in arc. It gives us the idea, even the spin gives us the idea of a pole star. It's all artificial. The sky is lying to make you believe you're on a planet. You're not. You're on a flat plane. You're not on a flat Earth. You're on a flat plane. That flat plane goes into the sides of a Dyson shell. The Dyson shell is disguised as ice walls. The Dyson shell at the top would be the moon. And the moon, this is what's moving. We are stationary. The whole shell moves around us. As the shell moves around us, it's also projecting an interior stellosphere. This is holographic to hide the shell. So Dyson shells are not invented by me. They're actually, I think it was in the 1960s, a scientist named Dyson had actually come upon the idea that there is a lot of evidence for the existence of Dyson shells. So you can do your own research on that. Now, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that's the truth. I'm saying that that's just as plausible as what you're telling me now about the moon being a reflection of the continents. Good, because I don't see it. I mean, I know that theory is popular, but I've looked at maps of the distribution of our world. I've looked at flat Earth maps just to be curious, and I've looked at the Mercator projection. I've even looked at maps that kind of merge the two. And I cannot see what you guys are seeing with the deal on the moon without you drawing artificial stuff on the moon to make it look like it looks. I don't know. I'm not denigrating the theory. I just don't see any evidence for it yet. Now, I'm also very hypersensitive to intelligence agencies just releasing bogus theories into the public and then financing them because I already see evidence of that a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I've always told you the truth, even down to my criminal record. I've told you all the truth from the beginning, guys. I'm just not gonna lie. I sometimes am still mystified why I'm even allowed to speak on YouTube. It's almost as if they don't give a damn no more. But I am 100% that 100% confident that intelligence agencies have financed and backed so-called truthers, and this is why they're successful. They're given all these contracts to do interviews with all these people. That intelligence agencies have totally infiltrated the truther community, and they have hand-delivered theories for people to just run with. Because I know former trolls. I'm not going to name them. You can name them if you want to, if you know who I'm talking about. But I know YouTube channels that have gotten real popular that were nothing but dudes trolling the shit out of people who are providing genuinely good content in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Then all of a sudden, those people that were providing this amazing content disappeared and were replaced with the troll that was always attacking them. And now that troll has a huge channel talking about the exact same things that these people who disappeared. Guys, you know who I'm talking about. I am not going to sit here and be quiet about my suspicions of intelligence apparatus fully infiltrating the truther community. So I'm telling you out loud right now, I'm still surprised I'm even on YouTube. I'm just surprised about it, but I'm going to keep going. And I'm also going to tell you this, that you guys know I don't have ads breaking up my video content unless YouTube hijacks one of my videos because of a copyright violation. So then they spam the shit out of my video. I think I have 3 videos out of over 600 videos that have ads. I do that. I don't have merchandise scrolling on the bottom. You can go to my website if you want a coffee mug, if you want a book. Yeah, I'm not prostituting myself in order to give you guys the truth. I'm not. I don't feel compelled to do that. I don't need a lot of money. But what I do need is to be taken seriously. So when I bump heads with some of these guys who have put themselves on a pedestal of also being someone who is trying to bring value and benefit to the community, and then I get this kickback from Billy Carson like that, oh no, you just exposed your hand. If I was to tell you everything he said in that email, guys, it is just saturated with egoism. It is just saturated. This is the guy that you guys claim, not all of you, but some of you claim you're getting your spiritual material from. It is absolutely hypocrisy to see this. Yeah, I attacked a theory. He defended himself with how successful he is. There's no correlate here. I don't really understand, man. I don't even understand. I will say this: you guys already know, good guys never win. So I'm even open to the idea that my end will be ignominious. You know what? I've told you guys many times. I am not surprised if one day I just get a bullet in my face because I don't care. I have absolutely zero self-preservation in me, none. 26 years of prison, I survived all that. I just don't think I'm going to be gone until it's time for me to go. And when that happens, be it next week, be it 7 years from now, be it in May 17th, 2040, while I'm watching the sky as the Phoenix phenomenon is going off, whenever that time comes, I'm happy. I'm cool with it. I have served my purpose. Done that. But I don't even know why I just went on that rant. What the hell made me go on that rant? Because we were talking about something else. Dyson shells and the moon. I don't even know. But that was a capture flood. So, yeah. I know somebody's gonna clip that rant. I just know it. All right, let's see. Is Dawn in the chat? Did Dawn get in the chat? Oh, it's Delta Dawn. Yeah, baby's asleep. Okay. Now, so the Adam and Eve reset. 3895 BC. Showed it in the Great Pyramid, showed by multiple different species of analysis. We can get year one of the Annus Mundi calendar, year one of the ancient original Hebrew calendars, 3895 BC. Showed the chronology so many times, and I've done so many call outs to biblical, all these YouTube channels that hold these biblical chronology. I've called so many people out. Not one person to date has wanted to debate any of these issues. Don't get me wrong. There's a few channels that got 300 subs. There's one guy that's got like 2,000 subs or something. But what they want to do is come on my channel and get some action. But they don't have any skin in the game. In order to debate me, you have to have skin in the game. Did you publish this? Did you promote this as fact? I says, are you a content creator and you have a good audience, man, and you're promoting all this as fact? This is what you claim? Cool. You should be able to defend the integrity of what you claim. It's as simple as that. If you're just a channel with 2,000 subs, 3,000 subs, all you're trying to do is get clout. That's what you want. You don't have any skin in the game. You don't have any published material. You haven't even told your audience what your beliefs are. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I got somebody who keeps asking me for debates and all that. Little bitty channel, but I went and looked through all of his videos, and there's no consistency. He doesn't have a message. There's nothing there. So he's just looking to get some content. That's all. Yeah, man, I'm attacking giants, guys, or those who perceive themselves to be a giant. Yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time with peons at all. But I know this. Billy Carson has literally told people in emails that I'm a peon. And so he should be able to defend that, because I, on the other hand, am going to claim right now that I am Billy Carson's intellectual superior, and I have the published works, the data sets to prove it, and the ability to debate, discourse, and do long diatribes showing why almost every tenet that he teaches is wrong. So there it is. The call out is still real. All right. Yeah, Graham Hancock's next. If anybody can give me Graham Hancock's personal contact information, please do so. I'll pay for it. I just need to go on record as officially, calling him out. Also, Randall Carlson, Paul Wallace. Yeah, all these guys. I'm about to call them all out. I know none of them are going to debate. That's the point. That's the point, guys. I want to show a whole list of people who have refused to debate. That's what I'm angling for. And then if I get lucky and one of them does want to debate, you guys are going to see the actual collapse of someone's empire. All they got to do is get in the ring with me. That's all they got to do. The call out is real. Yeah, man. Ready for that. So we have all this BS research about Göbekli Tepe, Catalhuyuk. Again, it's the uniformitarian dating that puts these things way in the ancient past, when the actual archaeology shows that, man, these are pretty recent. Yeah. We judge them by the sigils, the architectural styles, the artifacts that are found. And what we find are things that are very contemporary with the 26th, 27th, and 28th century BC. Yeah. But because they're found deep underground, they're 8,000 BC. Absolutely ridiculous. I've got videos showing Göbekli Tepe and Catalhuyuk in Turkey. This is the original pre-flood world. The underground cities of Derinkuyu and all that. This is where the people hid from the Phoenix phenomenon in 2239 BC. The 60 underground cities are in Turkey. All the old Genesis story of the Edens, in the Babylonian version, it was the Adamu. This was a race of people on the surface world, and they were banished from the Edens that were operated by the Anuna. The Anuna were nothing but tall Caucasian white dudes with big old long beards. And then you had your indigenous cultures trapped on the surface, while the white people were underground, hiding in underground mountain facilities. They didn't come from space. Ancient Aliens was full of crap. The most ancient text and the Anunnaki records themselves come from the cuneiform from the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th century BC are very clear that the Anuna came from the mountains. That's when it says they descended. They didn't descend from the stars. They descended the mountains. This is why the Anuna were master metallurgists. They had iron, they had bronze, they had copper. You do not get any of those things in the Euphrates-Tigris basin. No mining is done in that basin. None of it. It's all diluvium. There's nothing there. They built a bunch of cities. It's very clear as well that even in the book of Jasher, After the flood, the people moved east. When they moved east, they built a city and called it the Gate of God, Bab-Ili. That's Babylon. If they moved east, where were they? They were in the west. Same thing we find with Hesiod in the legends of the Titans and the giants and how they had come from Tartaros, the far west. Tartaros, the far west in the underground. Yeah, that's where all these stories come from. Where is west of Babylon? Look on a map. It's called Turkey, ancient Anatolia, where we find the Edens, the walled enclosures, the Göbekli Tepes, where we find all the cities like Cain was scared people were going to mess with him and all that, and Enoch went out and built a city. Well, we found those Catalhoyuk. This is all vapor canopy constructions. This is all right there. It's all in Turkey. The entire Genesis narrative unfolded in Turkey. Even the mountains and even the underground facilities that they came up from, it's all in Turkey. So you can check those videos out too. None of that requires simulation theory. When Enki appeared with the Anuna in 3439 BC by ship, it was the Gihon flood. The world was destroyed, but anthropologists are going to ignore that diluvium level and then age everything below. It's going to be even older because of the depth. Do you see how stupid uniformitarian dating is? It's dumb. What about an earthquake that exposes a whole area of coastline, letting the ocean come in, wash away all the topsoils, and then buried cities underneath it, and pulls out to sea all the alluvium, all the clays and all the topsoils, the trees, everything gets pulled out to sea, and then 400 years later, after grass and bushes have grown up everywhere in shrublands and stuff, archaeologists find it, but it's only 2 feet underground, so it must have been the last 500 or 600 years, right? Right? These cities here, yeah, this has already happened. It's called Easter Island. Easter Island archaeologists claim those statues, those Moya, were only 1,000 years old. But we know in the Ogygian delusion, 1687 BC, that Heliolithic maritime empire was wiped out, and they were connected to Tiwanaku, just right across the water in South America. So this type of dating is ridiculous. It's almost comical, but it's what you're going to find in every single modern scientific book today, every one of them. I'm not the only one that brought this to the public's attention. Many other writers have brought this duplicity to the public's attention. You cannot go by any scientific dating, and this is what Charles Fort said. He says, "Who would not miss who would not miss the target if only their hits were recorded?" He was talking about uniformitarian scientists who date all these things and then pat themselves on the back for getting the date right. It's so stupid. It is so dumb. So we have in Archaix, I have brought to the table the Nemesis X object chronology. Hold on, guys. I just got a knock on the door, and right now I'm the only one here. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Dogs tell me everything. All right. So Archaix has brought to the table the fact that in the 792-year periodicity of the Nemesis X object, some people call it Nibiru. I'm cool with that. Now, a lot of people think Zecharia Sitchin made up Nibiru. He did not. I have a book in my library right now from the year 1900 about scientific debates among scholars and translators in the 1890s, where they were arguing over the identity of Nibiru. And there was a group of translators who held to the theory that Nibiru was Jupiter. Others said there's no way. We already have the names of Jupiter and the other planets in the Sumerian text. Nibiru is something else. And Jupiter could never fulfill these prophecies right here because none of the other planets were attached to significant prophecies in the Sumerian text. Well, this book is amazing, guys, and I have read portions of it on my channel where it shows that the reappearance of Nibiru would, kill crops, human depopulations, do all kinds of things. But in the last days, there's a prophecy, in the last days, the appearance of Nibiru was going to bring a golden age. That's amazing because all the other appearances of Nibiru in the Sumerian text were tragic, and they watched out for it. And then there's one prophecy about it's going to bring a golden age. Well, this is the beauty of it. In Archaix, I show the chronology how it works out. The ancient Sumerians said that the Anuna only had a 60-year window in the ancient world when they could deal. Now, there's a black scholar and translator. I can't remember his name, but I read his book. It's huge. It's like a Bible. And it goes into all these Sumerian academia. He's better than Sitchin. He's way better than Sitchin. I can't remember. Diop. I want to say his name is Diop. It's not Diop. It's somebody else. But I've cited his material and I showed portions of his deal. But he specifically talks about this 60-year period too, which is found in the Chinese turtle Magwandi text. The 60-year period is in ancient Armenian histories. This 60-year period is mentioned by the Chinese and the Sumerians. It was very, very integral to the development of the Sumerian sexagesimal system, which is based off of periods of 6 years, 60 years, in the Anunnaki Ner epic, which I've showed you guys in texts and demonstrated chronologically. The Anunnaki Ner period of 600 years was a real-time period called the Great Year. It was 216,000 shars, or turnings of the stars. It was 600 years. So this period of 600 years is interesting because we have the appearance of the Nemesis X object in the Archaix chronology in 3499 BC. 60 years later, on the 60th year, is the Gihon flood. One third of the entire world is destroyed. Enki appears after the destruction with 50 Anuna by ship, and they become the great miracle workers of the 35th century BC, exactly 432,000 turnings of the shores before the Great Flood. 3439 BC to 2239 BC is 2 Ner. 600 years plus 600 years. This is your 1200-year period that is so famous in the ancient world. Now, this is also the origin of the legend of the 10 kings before the flood. Not the 7 kings of the Anuna. The 7 kings of the Anuna were opposed by 10 kings that were known in the ancient world that ruled for a 1200-year period. Sometimes, like Berosus, who didn't really know what he was talking about because he was a Greek in Babylon studying in Alexandria who was writing about things 2,000 years after those texts were written. So he said the 10 kings was actually a code for the 10 shars, and that each shar was 120 years. Berosus said this. Each shar was 120 years. So to Berosus, a shar was a day. A shar was a 120-year period, and a shar was a 3,600-year period. To Berosus, a shar was multiple periods. And this is why I showed you guys that many times in the Sumerian manifests, only about 5% of Sumerian texts are even epics and cosmologies. The rest of it is all shipping manifests and tax records and ledgers and property taxes and deeds. Yeah, all these Sumerian texts. And in there, we have cargo for ships weighed in shars. That tells you that the shar was a unit of measurement. It never meant year. So we have all this in Archaix. This is what Archaix brings to the table. I don't just talk about these things. I show you in my videos where these materials came from and how it all fits together. And the Nemesis X object is very unique because it's in our sky for 60 years. And then for 732 years, it vanishes. The total periodicity of appearances is 792 years. And that number is phenomenal. And this pattern holds true all the way to 2046. In 2046 begins a 60-year period, the return of the Nemesis X object. But what happens in the 60th year? The return of the chief cornerstone, 2106 AD. So the prophecy of Nibiru is true. A golden age is coming. It's the year 6000 on the Annus Mundi system. It doesn't mean the world 6,000 years. It's just one calendar. So that's what Archaix brings to the table. The Nemesis X object, an ancient Sumerian object that brought the Anuna from the underground, brought them up from the Apsu, the deep, brought them up from their underground facilities. When it brought up, according to anthropologists, there's perfect crossover with the interpretation of the Shar being a day, because the appearance of Enki in 3439 BC was the 35th century BC. What does anthropology publish about the 35th century BC? They don't have an explanation. They just say that suddenly whole cities were built, urban planning, hyperbolic curves, irrigation, canal works, wharfs, quays, things that have never been seen in the archaeological record, suddenly all appeared within a 100-year period. Full infrastructure, as if this knowledge had come from somewhere else. It did. It was preserved in the underworld, where they had survived. But the world that they had built prior to the cataclysm was wiped out. That's why their anthropologists don't have evidence. But do we have evidence? Yes. In the Archaix presentations, you see all kinds of evidence of artifacts that are 2 miles below Oklahoma that have been found 600 feet underneath different areas of Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Canada. There was an infrastructure in North America that was absolutely, completely entombed, buried. I'm talking about massive burial for us to find things that deep. I've even shown 3 different wooden ships that were all found entombed inside mountains. This is what you get in Archaix. When you go through these presentations, you don't need simulation theory for any of that. You also get the 600-year Anunnaki nerd chronology, where it goes all the way through. Every 600 years, something major happens. It's amazing. You get that. Doesn't require simulation theory, but you do need to sit back and think, how is this perfection even possible? You got to think. So, showing that the entire Ancient Aliens narrative, this is what you get in Archaix. The entire Ancient Aliens narrative is BS. Every bit of it is cargo cult phenomenon. Yeah. That's what it is. David Hatcher Childress, he pinned it in his published books, which I have all of them. He nailed it. It was cargo cult phenomenon. This was going on. It had nothing to do with ETs and aliens. This was his position until he started taking that money from the Ancient Aliens franchise. And now he's on the Ancient Aliens franchise. And although I still value his books, he's no longer my hero. But I used to talk real good about him on my channel. So yeah, it's cargo cult phenomenon. Cargo cult phenomenon is the sudden appearance of a technologically advanced people that still have infrastructure intact, that come into contact with indigenous aboriginal peoples who regard them as gods because of the things that they don't understand, technological things that they see and perceive. It blows their mind. And we have modern examples in World War II when the U.S. Navy and the Army landed on Pacific Islands and built railway strips and landed planes and dropped parachute crates full of supplies. And the natives sat there and watched men in helmets with glow sticks going back and forth to indicate, nighttime landings and all that. So the shamans and the holy men on there, they did it, and they built mock deals, and they did all these things in ritual, thinking that this was going to bring the gods back when the GIs left the island when World War II was over. Cargo cult phenomenon is real, and it's happened multiple times in human history. Multiple times. It's crazy. I haven't looked at my chat in a while. Let me look at this chat real quick. All right. So yeah, it's crazy. So 3103 BC, we're still in the pre-flood world in my narrative right now. But in 3103 BC, we have this amazing calendar started called the Vedic Kali Yuga calendar. Now, I've gotten in trouble with some those who claim to be Vedic specialists and all that, just like I've gotten in trouble with some of those who claim to be Mayan specialists. And what I mean by trouble is they didn't like what I was saying, turned around and sent me venomous letters trying to argue and all this stuff like that. And then I send them the facts and they sit the hell down. In both instances, I had people claiming to have more knowledge than they actually possessed try to educate me that the Vedic system and the Mayan system are already well established, and that Vedic and Mayan shamans and sky watchers from long traditions already know that that the Mayan calendar is perfect. We know because we followed the astronomical patterns. They've always happened when they were supposed to happen. The sky watchers have all documented the exact dates of the passages of the Bactans and all that. And I've been told the same thing about Vedic astrology proves the Vedic calendar system and all that. And every bit of that's bullshit, because both systems from the beginning were day count systems. Even the Mayan scholars will tell you the Mayan long count is 1,872,000 days divided in 13 Bactans. A Bactan is a 400-year Mayan epic. That's what it is. So 144,000 days is a Bactan. If the entire long count under the 13 heavens, representing the 13 clans of the Maya, is 13 epics until time itself will collapse into something else and an invasion of demons will emerge on the surface world, this is Mayan prophecy. This is what the Mayan long count is about. Then nothing in the sky has anything to do with the Mayan long count. There's no astronomical planets. There's none of that BS. If it's a day count system, then it's highly specific. It's 1,872,000 turnings of the stars, because the Mayan sky watchers measured star arc turnings in order to determine time. They didn't give a damn about planetary alignments. They didn't care about the moon phases. They didn't care none of that. None of that was how they factored time. The Mayan long count was days from the beginning. So all these Mayan shamans were full of shit from the beginning. And they quit corresponding with me, because there's no way to get around that argument. Even when you Google how scholars calculate the Mayan long count, you will find it's a day count system. And a day count system doesn't require any planetary alignments. It doesn't require any of that modern mystic woo-woo psychobabble these people are trying to pass off. The Vedic system was the exact same way. The Sumerian Shar system was the exact same way. Just like Genesis says, the first mode of keeping time was the evening and the morning was the first day. Simple as that. It's a day count system. It's so simple. And when you go by that, everything lines up. And now, the Vedic system of 216,000 years of a yuga is 600 years. But the Anunnaki nerve system was 5239 BC plus 600 years to 4639 BC. There's the first age of the Veda. Add another 600 years, the moon suddenly appeared. Now the moon's in the sky. That's 432,000 years of the Veda system, but it's actually 1,200 years. It's perfect. The Archaix chronology has absolutely made sense of all these ancient systems and done away with all this woo-woo crap that these people are trying to pass off as fact, and it's not. And the Vedic system also has a very unique character. Scholars say it started in the Kali Yuga started in 3103 BC. It is very interesting. They should use that date, because in my videos and presentations, you will find that the Vedic Kali Yuga starting in 3103 lines up with so many amazing other calendars and epically famous recorded events in world history, and they're all patterned in multiples of 138. This isn't the Phoenix timeline, but there's something about the Vedic calendar that's copying the Phoenix periodicity of 138 years and the Phoenix cycle of 552 years. So you go into my presentations and you'll learn all about the associations between the Vedic timelines and the Phoenix. And the bridge between them is the Exodus. The Vedic system of Kali Yuga is measuring the time that the human historical period will be the Black Age, because the end of the timeline is the beginning of the Golden Age, and it perfectly lines up perfectly with 2106 AD, the return of the chief cornerstone. You got to look at it. It's all here, guys. So that's sexagesimal mathematics, and it applied across the board to all in the vapor canopy world. This is what it was, and it's based off a 360-day year. I don't need to prove that in this video. I've already beat that up in multiple videos. I've even done call-outs. Matter of fact, the title of the video was Archaix calling out all critics, where I showed definitively that here is a long list of all the ancient cultures and ancient civilizations, the ancient writers, and even the archaeological findings that prove that the entire world only used a 360-day calendar. And that in the year 713 BC, every calendar in the world was changed. I'll also go into detail as to what happened. It's also mentioned in the Bible. The sun stopped moving across the sky. Not only did it stop, then it retrograded 10 degrees. Then it stopped again, and then it retraversed the 10 degrees and it retrograded and then kept going. On the other side of the world, the ancient American civilizations left us a document. And in that document, as shown by Manuel Velikovsky, one of the Mexican codices, in that document, it says that it stayed nighttime 20 hours longer than it was supposed to. What? Two different hemispheres. Whether you're a flat earther or a globe, where you believe in a globe, whatever. It doesn't even matter. But in two different hemispheres, one under daylight and one under nighttime, the same story at the same time. And the same effect. We lost the 360-day year. Now we have a 365.24-day year. All of this is in Archaix. And not just once, but in multiple different species of analysis. From multiple different perspectives, we learn about the 360-day year. We learn about the 365.25 change and the event that caused. And now, one of the reasons I'm a simulationist is because of the things that did not change when the year changed. That right there is very compelling evidence that we are in a construct. And we'll get to that. So before the flood, before this great cataclysm and all that, we have the 7 Anunnaki kings. And I've shown over and over, and many of you agreed because it's just common sense. The Sumerian king list of 7 kings ruling for 241,200 shars. Billy Carson's going to tell you that these kings ruled for 48,000 years each. 7 Anunnaki kings because they got pure genetics. This is Billy Carson. Their genetics were pure at the time. They were descended, or they were actual Anunnaki, godlike beings, and their technology allowed them to live. Man, shut up. This Facebook educated comic version of history is the reason the truther community has become so toxic. It is absolute BS, and it's funded by intelligence agencies. Yeah, I'm not going to stop saying that. Screw them people. So I'm going to tell you, man, this is 241,200 shars. If you go by the original Sumerian sexagesimal mathematics, problem solved. It's just 670 years. But we have a very compelling proof as well, because the Chinese Shu King text tells us about the kings of the dragon kings before the flood. The Chinese chronology holds that the dragon kings ruled for 646 years. That is within the 670 years of the Sumerian king list. That is very compelling. But what's even more compelling is the Chinese chronology dates it exactly for the time overlap that we have in Archaix for the Sumerian king list. And the Sumerian king list dates itself. How does it date itself? Because the 7 kings ruled 670 years before the flood. It says, and then the flood swept over the earth. Well, that's real easy. 670 years before the Great Flood in 2239 BC, which is a matter of debate, meaning if you want to debate me on that, I will embarrass you. I don't care who you are. The data sets we have from the scientific world, archaeological world, and ancient texts, and the biblical chronology, Jasher, Hebrew, all that, pinpoint the month of May 2239 BC on the Phoenix timeline. And of course, ancient records say it was the Phoenix that did it. But this is that's how we get it. 2909 BC was the beginning of the 670 years. Why is that interesting? Because Enoch vanished 1 year later. Enki vanished 1 year later. Soon as the first year of the kingdom, he's gone. And what happened later? 3 years after that, they start building the Great Pyramid project. How do we know? Because the Great Pyramid is self-referencing. I've showed you guys many, many times. The Great Pyramid, everything about the measurements and alignments of the Great Pyramid is totally self-referencing. It shows us a 360-day year. It shows us so many different things. Matter of fact, let me get a calculator real quick. I'll show you real quick. Let's go with 360 divided by 7 for the 7 days of the week. 360 divided by 7. You see that right there? What is that? That's 51.4. Great Pyramid shows right there that the year was 360 days when it was constructed, because the sloping apophthegms, the sloping angles of the Great Pyramid are 51.4 degrees. Now, I've showed many times in many presentations. We're not going to go into pyramid chronometry, but the pyramid is amazing. But it was built in the year 1080 Annus Mundi. The pyramid itself is the fulfillment in 3D geometry of the two-dimensional calculation of the Arab, the Sumerian Arab. The Sumerian Arab is a symbol that describes God using a plow to break up the ground to reset his harvest. This is the Sumerian Arab. The Arab is a 5-pointed star. To make a 5-pointed star, what you call a pentagram, the Sumerian Arab symbol, to make that, you have to draw 10 angles of 108 degrees. I show all this in my published books. 10 angles of 108 degrees in two-dimensional geometry equals 1080. But if you take 5 points and turn them into three-dimensional geometry, because it's the very first geometrical form you can make on the point system. 1 is potentia, 2 is division, 3 is a triad. But you can only do things. Even 3 is only in 2 dimensions. A three-dimensional form that creates space requires 4 points. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It requires 5 points. 4 points is just a square. 5 points are 4 points at the bottom. That's your square. Adding the 5th point at the top to create the pyramid. The pyramid is the first geometrical form. And it's formed from the Arab, which is the number 1080. But in the chronology, we find that the Great Pyramid was finished after 90 years. 90 years is 1080 months, 1080 months. The ancient Vedic traditions claim that Brahma had 1080 eyes. And Hipparchus said that the powers of the heavens were in 1080 stars, fixed stars. All this relates, guys. The ancient Egyptian coffin text, spell 1080, specifically says, and he let down his perfection onto the desert of sand. Talking about the Great Pyramid. So, that was intent, spell 1080. Oh, and after 90 years of construction was the year 2815 BC, which is the Annus Mundi. It is the 1080th year of the pre-flood world. Since the Adam and Eve reset of Genesis 1 and 2, it is 3895 BC start date. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. Everything is self-referencing. It is so well enmeshed. That's why I got no debaters. That's why I got no takers. This data is overwhelming, and it's all chronological. So, I've lost my chat feed. Hold on. You guys got away from me. Okay. So, Also in the the Shu King text of the Dragon Kings, it overlaps perfectly. The chronology is absolutely perfect. Even the Chinese date the flood almost exactly perfect. So and the flood is what killed the Dragon Kings, same as the Sumerian Anunnaki kings. It's all the same. It's all the same history. And anybody, if you look at my channel, you'll see the charts where Sumerian pre-cuneiform pictograms and logograms are identical to ancient Chinese symbols. So yeah, it's all the same. Now, in Archaix, you're going to learn about a different type of division of world history. You're going to learn about the Technolithic period, which started with the appearance of Enki and the Anuna 3439 BC. It lasted 792 years, the full duration of the Nemesis X object when they vanished again. Remember, the Nemesis X object is not an intruder planet. I don't go into a lot of detail about what we're dealing with here, but I'm telling you, we're living inside of a Dyson shell, and that the shell is hidden by the holography that we call the stellosphere. I'm also telling you that this is where it gets crazy. I'm also telling you guys, and I know it's hard to believe, these are personal conclusions based off my research, but the Nemesis X object, just like in the book of Revelation, when it returns, we are not dealing with something that looks like an intruder planet. We are not dealing with we're looking at something that looks like an upside down city construction that hangs in the sky for 60 years, and there will be interactions. There will be people being pulled up for shit, and there'll be materials coming down for 60 years. This is the Antichrist beast kingdom. This is the return of the seven kings period. This is the false prophet period. This is what's going on. It's the future after the great cataclysms of 2040 of the Phoenix and Nemesis X object first appearance in 2046, and then it hangs in the sky. It does not leave. It will stay there for 60 years. It's going to stay there through the whole great tribulation period up to the point where 2106 AD, it is destroyed. Now, this is a part of the super construction apparatus of the Dyson shell itself. This is what it is. Now, you guys can make your own conclusions, watch the videos, but we're dealing with the fact that we're in a construct, and that doesn't require simulation theory. So the Technolithic period was a huge exchange of materials. And this is why the Sumerian king list says, I drop Eridu, I drop Bad Tabira, I drop Larek. The Sumerian king list is not talking about taking, talking about taking cities that were in the heavens and all that and putting them on the ground. It's talking about this Nemesis X object super construction hanging in the sky, the city of the gods hanging in the sky, and it drops down and lowers a whole nother construction that's outlaid like a city. And what they have to do? What was it all about? Manufacturing metals, alloys. This is what Bad Tabira was. It was a mining city. This was all in the pre-flood world, absolutely technologically advanced. In the Nemesis X object is machinery in the sky, lowering a machine city that is populated and used by humans. This is what's being conveyed by the Anunnaki. That's why the Sumerian king list says, I drop Eridu, I drop Bad Tabira. This is what was going on. So now, this is exactly the picture we painted that's coming in the future as well. Now, when these things go on, I'm going to tell you now. I don't know why. You can ask questions all day long. I'm not going to invent answers, but there are factions of the elite that hide from this. They go underground. They're not going to participate. They go underground until the coast is clear, whatever. And there's other faction of the elite that's working with this group that appears every time the Nemesis X object appears. So, all right. So anyway, you just have to watch the video presentation. You got to understand how the Great Black Death Plague unfolded, what really happened with the machines that were seen in the sky spraying the mist and dumping body parts everywhere that were plague-filled. Yeah, rats from ships didn't do that. The historians of the time were very clear what was going on. So that's Technolithic period. Post-Technolithic period. In Archaix, you will learn that in the pre-flood world, you had the primitive period, which was the Göbekli Tepes and the Catalhoyuk. All the Huyuks and all the Tepes in Turkey describe 3895 BC to the Gihon flood. That's a 456-year period. That's a long period of time. But that explains how those constructions got there. It doesn't explain how they were buried. The Great Flood does that. So we have, after that, we have the Technolithic period when Enki appears. Enki appears, brings civilization, technology, and humans. And there's an agreement. There is an agreement in the ancient world for the exchange of indigenous females for the Anuna men that are a part of this project, because there were no Anuna females for them to have. The few females that are mentioned in the Anuna were all females that had positions of power. So the regular Anuna males didn't have any access to them. So now, we have the Great Pyramid as a giant Arab. Now remember, the Great Pyramid, it too is machine. It is Technolithic precision. It was made during this machine period. It was finished. So it has everything to do with the construct. The Great Pyramid is intrinsically connected to what is going on. But there's a reason why it's never been destroyed. It's been left standing there. It has a future function. It has a future function, guys. So in Archaix, you're going to learn all about the different books in the 1920s, 30s, 50s, and 70s, and modern books from the 90s and the 1000s by scientists and organizations that are showing so much data that we once, in the historical record, lived under a vapor canopy. Maybe not one, but multiple vapor canopies. And I'll show you the artifacts. The elongated skulls of vapor canopy humans are no longer a mystery. They're living under a different pressurized environment with a lot more oxygen, and it made significant changes. Now, there is an addition to vapor canopy that doesn't apply to the entire world. Ambient radiation that is released from volcanic activity. Remember, the Phoenix and Vulcan are interchangeable. But ambient radiation in any ecology, little ecospheres that are around, like island populations, especially island populations, and any little civilization that was living near volcanoes, they experienced something additional than just living long lives and cellular repair, increased cellular repair. Volcanically localized populations, they experienced giantism. So in the world of the vapor canopy period, ordinary sized humans and gigantic humans could coexist, just like the Patagonian giants that Magellan discovered in South America. But the problem is these giants who are titans, they cannot exist when a vapor canopy collapses, because now they no longer have the oxygen necessary. They don't have it anymore. Ordinary sized humans don't have a problem. They keep on trekking. They don't need all that oxygen, but large creatures do. So the titans and giants and the megafauna, they die out when the vapor canopy cataclysm happens, and it collapses the day the sky fell. When the sun was born, you guys know when all the ancient American calendars were all sun calendars. When Horus appeared in the Egyptian pantheon in late history, when Utu Shamash appeared in the Sumerian pantheon, it's really weird. How do you have a pantheon of gods that goes back thousands of years, and only at the end of your civilization throw in the sun god? That's what Egypt and Sumer both did. At the end of their civilizations, they threw in a sun god. How'd that happen? Because the vapor canopy collapsed, and now they could see the sun. That's what happened. So, yeah, giantism. In Archaix, you will learn giantism is not created by the old Babylonian traditions that were copied by the Jews when they wrote the book of Genesis, and the rabbis when they wrote the book of Enoch, the secrets of Enoch, third Enoch, the Apocryphon of Abram and Moses. When the rabbis wrote all this, They were believing that the only way giants could have been introduced into the world is if angels had sex with human women. I used to believe that too, because that's what's been passed down in so many different ancient records. But we can't ignore the science on this one, especially in Glen Rose, Texas, when they produce giantism in specimens that are put into hyperbaric chambers, and they increase the air pressure, they decrease the light to ultraviolet radio, the same thing as the vapor canopy, and all of a sudden everything in the chamber is growing really big. Okay, that we have a problem now. Just like we don't need simulation theory for all the Archaix output, we don't need angels having sex with humans or Anunnaki having sex with ordinary people, assuming the Anunnaki weren't ordinary themselves, or just white folks with beards. So we don't need angels anymore. We don't need none of that shit. It's all ambient radiation. How do we know? Because two scientists grew 2 inches in 1902 just being in the proximity of a volcano that had exploded weeks earlier. That's how we know. Giantism is real. How do we know? Because we have several traditions from the ancient world of giants, and they seem to always be around for a little while after a cataclysm. So in Archaix, you're going to learn that the great flood of the Bible, and mentioned in so many other traditions, is not the Younger Dryas period. It is not 10,000 something BC. And I have done call outs. I've called Graham Hancock. I don't know why. I can never get that guy's name right. Graham Hancock. I've called him out on it because it's total BS. Anything about the Younger Dryas, total BS. That man's not going to debate the date of the Great Flood, I promise you. Just like he's not going to debate the destruction of Atlantis being 9,600. It would be career suicide. It'd be stupid to debate me on that, because I've published my data sets even for my competition. And I'm calling them competition because they're putting out false theories and competing for the public attention, putting out all this misinformation. I freely provide my data sets and PDFs even for my academic enemies. And yet still, I can't get anybody to debate these things. Because when they read the PDFs, they read, holy shit, everything I put in my books is wrong. But they're not going to retract those statements. Hell no. Hell no, they're not. Not Billy. Hell no. He's got his face on bulletin boards in New York City. It's amazing. It is amazing what comes out of people's mouths. All I wanted was a debate on the Anunnaki shore. Instead, I got a whole list of stuff about why you're so successful and why I'm a peon. That's great. All right, let's go. So in Archaix, you're also going to see absolute paradigm smashing data. Has nothing to do with simulation theory, showing you that the zodiac was created by the Greeks, and that Robert Schoch, Robert Bauval, Andrew Collins, all the ancient aliens people, from Eric von Däniken on down, even Zechariah Sitchin, Graham Hancock specifically, and Randall Carlson, and everybody using the zodiac, age of Aquarius, age of Pisces, age of Taurus, anybody using the zodiac to date anything before the 2nd century BC is full of shit. The data's there for everybody. We can debate that too. But the zodiac, even the Vedic scholars in the encyclopedias admit the zodiac as we know it, Aries, Gemini, Cancer, Taurus, Libra, Scorpio, all that. The zodiac that we know was a Greek invention. And this is admitted to by the Vedic scholars, that they received the zodiac from the Greeks. The Egyptians, guess what they say? We have a zodiac, but it was designed and built by the Greeks at the Temple of Dendera. It's a Greek zodiac. Stylized, it was a Greek Macedonian zodiac stylized in Egyptian, built in the year 100 BC. It's not even ancient. Not even ancient. So the reason this is an important point, I'm not saying astrology is not old. Astrology is ancient, but all the Sumerian records, they don't even acknowledge the zodiac. The Sumerian texts are real big on the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, the Pleiades. the Big Dipper, the Great Bear, the Little Bear, Alpha Draconis, Orion, Arcturus. Yeah, that's what they're real big on. Astrology is ancient, but the zodiac is a new construction specifically designed to deceive. It's used by the Freemasonic educators and put out there as if it is a 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 year old fact. And people like Graham Hancock, a sociologist who's gone into into the career of educating the public on the ancient world, and has become so famous, is not because his theories are exhilarating or super exciting. Archaix covers that. I've got super exhilarating and it is. It's because he's pushed by the right people. I'm not biting my tongue. That man came from the London School of Economics, where Zecharia Sitchin was, where George Soros was, where so many famous people that are in the media today all came out of the London School of Economics. And now I'm hearing all kinds of shit about that school. Now I understand. Okay, that makes perfect sense. It's all an intelligence operation. Every bit of this. Graham Hancock will never debate me on these issues because his handlers won't let him debate me. That's how real this is, guys. Yeah, I'm not biting my tongue. Screw them people. Let's see. Zodiac. Yeah, I'm done with that note. Also, you guys know, geologist, uniformitarian Robert Schoch says that the Graham Hancock's theories must be correct because the Sphinx is also old, so the Younger Dryas period would be correct. It's all BS, guys. It's all BS. In Archaix, you're going to learn the true history of why the ancients called northern Egypt the raised land. How the entire 108 miles of coastline going in up to the Great Pyramid was underwater. How the Great Pyramids were covered in 100-inch thick white limestone casing blocks that protected them from the Mediterranean. How Diodorus Siculus and Strabo, two Greek geographers and historians, absolutely knew that entire area was underwater. They called it the Triton Sea. And when it drained out, it left the Sahara Desert, and it drained out in recent times. And when it did, it exposed the Sphinx as being heavily damaged. Why? Because the Sphinx, unlike the pyramids, was not protected in those casing blocks. The Sphinx is a natural limestone outcrop that was carved into Anubis, a giant dog. After the flood, after being underneath the waters of the salt Mediterranean Sea, the Sphinx was heavily damaged. And now its head was missing, and it was just the neck. This is why when you look at 360-degree drone images of the Sphinx, you automatically notice that the whole head and the headdress fits perfectly within the confines of what originally was a neck. That's all they had left to work with. This is why the head is so disproportionately small, and the body is huge. It used to be a dog, but in order to turn it into a lion and a feline, they added things to it and they carved it more. It never had a human face. That was the neck. Look at it, guys. Look at it closer. If you're curious, I got a whole video about it. A lot of pictures. Everything we've been told about everything in the history of the world told about from all these mainstream, real popular guys is because this is what they're receiving from intelligence agencies to tell everybody. Yeah. If that's not true, we need to debate it. You need to let me know. Yeah. So here's the Sphinx erosion. 340 years underneath saltwater Mediterranean, and when it drained out, that's what that was left. Has nothing to do. That's why uniformitarianism is so stupid. It's just dumb. Go by the historical record, go by the chronological record, and you will find out that whole area was underwater. It's admitted. That's why Egypt was called, before it was called Gopt, it was called the raised land, because the whole thing came up 200 and something feet, and that elevation pushed that Mediterranean back. It was that simple. This is why Frederick Norton Lewis in 1740s, 50s, and 60s, excavating the area, found nothing but seashells all over the entire area. So we know in Archaix, you're going to learn also about the Heliolithic period. It has nothing to do with simulation theory. The Heliolithic period was very different than the Technolithic period. The Nemesis X object is gone. In the Heliolithic period, now all of a sudden we have everything is sun oriented. Nothing in the pre-flood world had anything to do with the sun. Now we have the sun orientations. Everything, the megaliths, the cities, massive, huge period of building. But the Heliolithic period met their fate in the 552nd year. I have 5 videos on the Ogaigian deluge, 1687 BC. If you want to know more about what happened to all these megalithic sites, about 90% of all the megalithic mysterious sites that are shown in all these ancient mysteries documented all came from this period. Now the sun was born. This is the water sun of the ancient American systems. 4 suns. And this is what we have. 552 years, 552 years, 552 years, 552 years. 4 suns. These are the phoenix cycles of 552 years, which is 138 times 4. Over and over and over on my channel, I have literally killed it. I'll just say it. I'll be boastful. I killed it. There is no refuting the Phoenix phenomenon at this point. None. We're going to get to that too. So the Tower of Babel store, the Heliolithic Maritime Empire is gone. So we have this curious story of the Tower of Babel, but in Archaix, I've shown you that it's a cover story. It didn't happen. It didn't happen at Babylon. It's a cover story. The story is about a population that realized that they could literally ascend into heaven. But they weren't thinking. That's how the story came down to us. It's really about a population who realized that by building a structure of stone, they would be able to exit the construct. This is what the Tower of Babel story is about. And while they were building it, they were almost done when those that were observing the construct, called the Elohim, the gods, this is just Jewish mythological flavor added onto the old Babylonian story. So they look down and say, behold, the man has become as one of us. And now there is nothing that he will not be able to accomplish by virtue of his imagination. Anything he imagines to do, he will be able to do. So they put an end to that. They struck the world with a disaster. And in that disaster, according to the story, they also altered their languages into 70 groups so they couldn't finish the project. Nobody could communicate anymore. And everybody got scared and separated into the groups that they could communicate with. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know that it's a cover story, because what was really built was the Great Pyramid. And the function of the Great Pyramid had been hidden to those who were overseers. Because someone who designed the Great Pyramid designed it for 2 functions. One was an engineering function for which it was used in the vapor canopy period, the pre-flood world. It was used for that function. But it had a second function that the overseers had totally missed, because the architect who had designed it had never verbally shared that information with any of the engineers and people who were going to be involved in the construction. Additionally, the architect and designer of this had to remove himself from the equation so he wouldn't accidentally say something or anything that would give off to those on the outside of the construct what was really being designed. He succeeded. This is the story of Enki. This is the story of Enoch, the mathematician, astronomer, architect, and prophet who built the Great Pyramid for a future generation far to come. But he had to build the interior mechanism to such an advanced degree and surround it with the appropriate architecture for it to survive a global cataclysm. This is the story that's come down to us. It's all in Archaix. It's all laid out. This is what it is. The Great Pyramid had a second function, and it did it. That's when something realized. I'm not going to say what it is because this isn't a simulation theory video, but something realized that it had been deceived. When it realized it had been deceived, it then began creating religions to put false narratives out there to hide all of this, hoping that humans in the far future, when that thing would become activated again, would not know what it was doing. So they couldn't gain material advantage, couldn't gain from that knowledge. So it put out a plethora of false paradigms in order to conceal the true history. And the real giveaway here is the story of the Tower of Babel. Once you realize it's a cover story, everything else makes sense. Enki became Loki, the trickster. Now, so that year that is affixed to the Tower of Babel story is interesting because it's 1899 BC. I didn't date that. Biblical chronologist Stephen Jones dated that with a host of other people who claim the Tower of Babel incident happened in 1899 BC, which was the year 1996 Annus Mundi. But that's just the date that the legend attaches to, because it's a cover story for the actual building of the Great Pyramid. But remarkably, in 1899 BC, that was the 340th year since the Great Flood. That's when Egypt became the raised land. In 1899 BC, that's when Egypt came back up and the Great Pyramids and Sphinx came out of the water. Yeah, guys, I got a lot of information on my channel about the Great Pyramid Complex being underwater for 340 years. Take that, shock. So, 1899 BC, that was a year of the visitation of the dark satellite. It's not something I talk about a lot, but those who've read my books have seen the chronology. And in my new edition of Chronicon, now available on Podia, I got all the new stuff on the dark satellite, and all the new stuff on Phoenix, all the new stuff on everything's in there now on the Nemesis X object, showing how all these things perfect. The chronology is absolutely precise and self-referencing from so many different dimensions of arithmetic. Yeah, guys, it is set in stone, so to speak. So this is 1899 BC is the appearance of the first recorded appearance of the dark satellite. Remember, the dark satellite, the origin in the traditions, the dark satellite, not the black satellite, not the black night satellite that was nothing but an intelligence psyop that was released onto Facebook that some people like Billy Carson took as real. It's all bullshit. The whole black night satellite crap is just bullshit. That's that Facebook educated version of reality. It's not true. Dark satellite, Charles Burgoyne, 1880s, in his books on the occult, he talks about the ancient traditions of the dark satellite and how the ancient ones were imprisoned on this object. This object descends from the sky and it does terrible things to our world, but those terrible things always have everything to do with controlling humanity and deception. This is the first recorded appearance of the dark satellite, but it came again. And when it did, it was the year 713 BC. And in 713 BC, the entire world had to change all its calendars. That's when the sun retrograded 10 degrees. That's when we lost the 360-day calendar. That's when we started factoring time at 365.24 days. Our modern calendar today. That was the dark satellite that did it. It came a few more times. In the year 76 AD, it was seen as a great javelin in the sky. What pictures have you seen that show giant black javelins in the sky? You remember Nuremberg in the year 1561? Yeah, we got a lot of stuff like that. Super constructions in the sky. This isn't like the ancient aliens version, Anunnaki from space and all that. These aren't capital ships. In fact, in the Sumerian text, there isn't a single spaceship mentioned. There are no capital ships, drop shuttles. There's no intergalactic stuff. None of that. All we have are references of Zecharia Sitchin just making up space travel when it didn't exist in the text. Yeah, it's crazy. So what we have in 713 BC is the change of the year, Great Deception started to confuse. And that's when the ancient ones imprisoned on the dark satellite had free reign to make changes in the construct, gone for a long period of time. 76 AD, that wasn't just the appearance of a giant black javelin in the sky. It also started the ancient Saka calendar, Saka calendar, which is very important. Which is very important too in prophecy. So we get to the return of the dark satellite is when the 7 kings that are mentioned in the book of Revelation, which mirror the 7 kings before the flood of the Sumerian king list. Remember, in the Sumerian king list, there was an 8th king, but the 8th king had his reign cut off. So the king list is titled the 7 kings of Sumer, but there's 8 kings mentioned. The 8th king had his reign cut off. What does Revelation say? It says there be 7 kings, and then it mentions an 8th king whose reign was cut short. It's all in the book of Revelation. It says the same thing the Sumerian king list says. But in the book of Revelation, the 8th king is allowed to continue his reign. This is what the tribulation is about. This is what the beast kingdom is about. The 8th one comes back, and the avatar of the 8th one is taken over by Apollyon, because by that time all 7 seals were broken, and now it's time for the angel of the bottomless pit, underworld, to open the gate to release Apollyon, the destroyer. What's the first seal about? Apollo Pharmakia poisoning the human family. That's what happened in 2020. 100%. Anybody who's seen my first seal decode will understand how Apollo is the entire subject matter of the book of Revelation. You have to remove the Judeo-Christian interpretations which were given to you by basically the rabbinate, and they're completely false. You have to decode the book of Revelation using the Greek. Oh, where's my book? I don't even have it in here. I have a Greek lexicon from 1854 that Dawn found in an antique store when she went to a funeral 2 weeks ago. Brought it to me. I'm going to show it to you. But it's 1854. It's literally that big. No, 1852. It's that big. It is a Greek lexicon. English. I'm going to use that to decode the rest of the seals in book of Revelation for you guys, like I did the first seal and second seal. But yeah, that's what 2052 is all about. The return of the dark satellite brings the 7 kings. They're now released. The 7 kings are free. This is the subject matter of the Necronomicon concerning the ancient ones and how they are striving and struggling to open the gate of Yaxakak. And they have to hide sometimes from the peacock angel. This is all in the occult lore. And I've showed this on my channel in many different presentations about the occult poems, about the peacock angel, about in the Necronomicon, how the ancient ones are going to return and that they're struggling. All these are just occult metaphors in codes for the Phoenix and the Great Pyramid. That's the gate of Yaxakak and the peacock angel. This is what's going on with the 7 kings. They return in 2052. What is 2052? It's the 168th year of the Statue of Liberty prophecy. Most people don't know. The French Masons in France sent ships with pieces of the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is a prophecy in stone. On my channel, for those who are new to my channel and you don't know, I have shown many ancient monuments and even modern cathedrals that record chronometry. This is what the Great Pyramid is. It is a fascinating 3-dimensional chronometric stone calendar that records many timelines. And I've given so many demonstrations. I have a whole playlist about the Great Pyramid timeline. So this is what we have with the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty was sent across the Atlantic and erected in New York Harbor. And when it was finally put together and dedicated, it started I believe it was 1884. It started a 168-year countdown to the year 2052. It did. Why? because the Statue of Liberty is not what you've been told it is. That looks identical to all the ancient Greek depictions of Apollo. The Statue of Liberty is masculine. That's not even a female. That is Apollo. How do we know it's Apollo? Because if you look at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, there's a chain around the ankle. Apollo is chained. Apollyon is chained in the underworld. 168. We know it's a prophecy of the 168 years because to go up to the torch, which is liberty, there's a spiral staircase that has 168 steps. You can't make this shit up. Every bit of what I just told you is verifiable. That is a statue of Apollo. The chain is because he's still Apollyon chained in the deep. But the whole book of Revelation is about his release. This is why they do the Olympic ceremonies, the NFL ceremonies, all these little pieces of information you see in there. This is all ritual and pantomime because it's called patterning. On my channel, you will learn everything you need to know about patterning and how we create reality by breaking pattern, breaking dungeon programming, and working with negative default programming to create the very things that we want to experience. Yeah, I explained to you how you enrich your life, how you can make all these things. I did it myself. Everybody knows who's been on my channel for a long time. I started with $27 in my pocket, unemployed, from a wooden shack out of prison, and I just started releasing videos, and I started doing odd jobs off Craigslist, of all places. Craigslist. From the beginning of my channel, you guys have been with me and saw my story. Yeah, from the beginning of my channel. Yeah, guys, it's crazy. And I hardly ever talk about it, but I'm very successful now. And it's been an interesting ride, 3.5 years on this channel. I've exploded. But you know what? I'm not done. I'm not done at all. And I told you, 2024, I'm going to make enemies. I promise you, this community that calls himself the Truther community, except for those who get on board and want to do podcasts and ally with me, I promise you, I'm going to make enemies. I'm going to hurt some feelings, man. I'm not here. I told you, 2024, it is too late to be polite. And I'm sticking to that. I'm sticking to that. I'm not trying. I'm in not trying to hear it mode. So that's the dark satellite, guys, 2052. Why is it called the Statue of Liberty? And the chain is there? Because when the chain is removed on the 168th step, that's when liberty is taken from the earth. I promise you, you do not want to be here in 2052. So 2052 is also a fulfillment. It's a fulfillment of the Sumerian sexagesimal system. It's on time because 2052 is the 6th year. It's the 6th year. 6 is the number of man. It is the 6th year since of the appearance of the Nemesis X object. So when 2052 comes, that means the Nemesis X object will be hanging in the sky for 6 years by that time. Another thing you're going to find on my channel, I've already mentioned the Archaix deluge. The Archaix deluge, 1687 BC, the appearance of the Phoenix phenomenon, literally answers about 90% of all the ancient mysteries you find on any books, any channels. That one is probably worse than the Great Flood. But it literally buried the entire world, and it's also the reason why you can't go by uniformitarian dating. Because by the time of 1687 BC, the world had already been destroyed about 20 times in the historical record. So you can't go by uniformitarian dating. How deep something is can never determine its age. Just can't. So another thing that I've been wanting somebody to debate, but they just won't, is that Atlantis is positively academically dated, and they are correct, in the 13th century BC. And anybody promoting 9,600, 9,500 BC is lying to you at this point. There is no way that they're making a mistake. They made a mistake 5 years ago. They made a mistake last year. They may have made a mistake 90 days ago, but there is no effing way they're making a mistake from this point on moving forward about that, because this data you guys have been emailing everybody about my call outs. I've got at least 50 of you telling me all the different people you've been emailing me on and sending my PDFs to. Listen, this information is in the field. It's out there. Anybody from this point trying to push that 9,600, 9,500 BC Atlantis narrative is a liar. It's as simple as that. If you're offended, call me out on your channel. That's all you got to do. Now, also, you guys, for those new to my channel, I brought something totally new to the field, something totally new to the field of ancient mysteries, something that has blown so many people's minds, it blew my mind. And that is the 138-year periodicity of the Phoenix phenomenon. It's unbelievable. It's also unbelievable how much data we have, and that the Phoenix phenomenon is attached to the Phoenix cycle of the ancient world, and that this 138-year patterning, a whole data set, independent, none of this requires simulation theory, but independent of the Phoenix phenomenon, is the fact that there is not a single researcher on the Great Pyramid in publishing today who has acknowledged the chief characteristic that I have found that completely nullifies so many theories. If you're writing or you're researching or producing data on the Great Pyramid and you refuse to entertain or even suggest, not suggest, but to even make known the fact that these rectilinear measurements in the Great Pyramid are divisible by 138, it's because you don't want to acknowledge that Archaix has deciphered the Phoenix phenomenon. You're a gatekeeper. That's who you are. Because if you're not fascinated with this material, then somebody is controlling you. It's as simple as that. There is no way in hell you could look at the Phoenix phenomenon material and not be amazed, because I have shown on my channel hundreds of examples from ancient text, architecture. The 138 patterning is everywhere. In the alchemical text, I just did a recent video, Occultus Mysterium. It took me 4 hours to get all the data out, showing you that even in the Middle Ages and Renaissance period, the elite all knew about the 138 years and the Phoenix and what it does. The pictures show everything. They're hiding in the underworld every time. Yeah. At this juncture in 2024, if you don't know about the Phoenix phenomenon or haven't looked into it, you're a gatekeeper. It's as simple as that. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about how I've shown absolute irrefutable proof that these measurements in the Great Pyramid, done by a scientist, the only measurements that are accepted by Egyptologists today. Even the corrupt and troll looking, I can't stand the dude, Zawi Hawass of the Egyptian Antiquities Department, even endorses the measurements of Sir Flinders Petrie today. In using only those measurements, do we find that all these measurements of the Great Pyramid, even in other dimensions of arithmetic, using pi and phi, 3.14 and 1.618, produces 138. Oh, it's the principal message of the Great Pyramid. Now, it's just crazy. But there's other things on my channel you'll learn. Once you get through that, it becomes explosive when you see that there's other timelines in the Great Pyramid that show you multiple ways, not just one way. Because believe me, I'm always telling my community, and I will stand by it in every debate. If something is true, you will always be able to show it from multiple different vantage points. This is what makes the Archaix data so profound. I'm never going to take a data point and tell you it's the truth. It's going to require a lot of data points. Once it's a data set, I'm going to present it. The Great Pyramid, by multiple species of analysis, shows us to pay attention to the years 1902, 2040, 2046, 2070, and 2106. Now, you guys already know 1902 began the last days. It switched the chronometry from the interior of the Great Pyramid to the exterior, because 1902 began same thing as the Statue of Liberty. 168 steps of the Statue of Liberty was a chronolithic countdown to 2052 AD, the time when liberty is taken from the earth. The statue of Apollo is no longer needed because the real Apollyon is released from the abyss. Now, this is what happens with the Great Pyramid in 1902. 1902 now begins an exterior countdown. 203 levels of the Great Pyramid. I've showed many charts. 203 levels of the Great Pyramid. Goes all the way up to a flat top where a cornerstone is supposed to sit, but it's not there. And that cornerstone would be 46 feet wide and 34.5 feet high. It would be so big, there's no crane in the world that can lift that weight. It's huge. It's gigantic. So we have the return of the chief cornerstone in the 204th year. And that's 1902 plus 204 is 2106. It's the year 6000 of the Annus Mundi calendar. It is the return of the stone uncut by human hands, the stone the builders rejected. In Archaix, thank you, Red Wing. And if anybody else donated, I'm sorry. I'm just not paying attention to the chat. I'm deep in my zone. I'm sorry, guys. Dawn and I always appreciate it. All right, now, in Archaix, you're going to learn that even though academia has reasons for trying to convince you that the Colburn Bible isn't legitimate, the same thing that they did, they vehemently attacked the book of Jasher. They vehemently attacked Mother Shipton's prophecy, the Ora Lind manuscript. Some of these are cultural documents that are very important to those people, but academia just dismisses them. Nostradamus' prophecies. Here's five things that academics look down their nose on. Nostradamus, Mother Shipton, Ora Lind, Dutch manuscript, the Book of Jasher, and the Colburn Bible. Academia doesn't want to endorse these texts, but you know what the common denominator is in all five of these texts? The Phoenix phenomenon. Yep, they all produce Phoenix dates. It's amazing. So this just like the Nemesis X object is a sky construction, but it has a hang time of 60 years. The exact same thing is what we found in, on my channel. I show you the old woodcuts and all the old illustrations of what people saw in the sky. But remember, over Nuremberg, Germany in 1561 was a great giant black javelin that appeared in the sky with other things. Then 1566, it happened again. Then in 1752, over Europe, principally over Slovenia, Norway, a gigantic super construction that looked like an octagonal star appeared in the sky. When it did, all kinds of fires broke out all over Northern Europe. There's all kinds of disasters happening. It's recorded. This is the octagonal star of 1752. All this is on my channel. And what I did is I provided some videos showing you that these events and other events of these weird constructions appearing in the sky in the 1800s, I showed you how using pi and phi, they're all connected together by the number 138. You can't make this shit up. So I've also showed that in Archaix, you're going to find that there's a collapse protocol embedded within our arithmetic. It's inescapable. It's in our math. And I've showed it. It's very simple. I call it the Archaix challenge. No, I call it the Archaix paradox. Matter of fact, the Archaix challenge. Before I forget that, I have an Archaix challenge. No one's met that yet. No one's met that. In the Archaix challenge, I show a video where I'm calling anybody out who wants to debate about it. But if you think the Phoenix phenomenon is not real, then you need to explain why we have ancient writers who all mention the 138-year period, the 414 period, which is 138 times 3, the 552-year period. They all associate it to destructions, which is a Phoenix cycle. We have the 1242 period, the 1656 period, the 1104 period, I forgot, the 2484 years of Aristarchus, 1656 years of Rashi. Biblical chronologist Stephen Jones has the 414 cursed earth period. He didn't know anything about the Phoenix. We have the ancient Maya knew of a 2,760-year cycle. Every number I am mentioning is divisible by 138. It's not the only ones, guys. The list is a lot longer than that. I'm just pulling those out of my head. But the Archaix challenge is a video that lists all these numbers and the sources they come from and the concept attached to those numbers, and it's all Phoenix related. And yet it took an ex-convict with an 8th grade education to bring that to the public's attention. Why didn't a scholar ever put all this together? Because his handlers wouldn't let him. That's why. That's the only conclusion I can have. The only conclusion I can derive from the fact that I'm not being invited to these real big channels to tell people all this amazing stuff. The only thing I can conclude is that intelligence agencies are basically telling them to blackball Archaix, because I've been contacting everybody. So for some shill like Billy Carson to get all this publicity when that man is too scared to even defend the integrity of his research in a simple debate between he and I'm only 8th grade educated, then that tells me his handlers aren't allowing him a dialogue with me. That's what it tells me. I told you 2024 is going to get nasty because I'm in not give an F mode right now. And I'm going to continue that way all the way until one of two things happen. One, they're going to put a bullet in my face, or two, they're going to get out the way and I'm going to start educating the public on everything Archaix related. It's as simple as that. There are no other options. That's it. So you're going to learn here in Archaix, not only the Archaix challenge, but you're going to learn all about the collapse protocol. Now, this is real hard to not talk about simulation theory, but I've already shown another challenge. And a guy in India did a video trying to disprove me. And by the end of the video, because he was showing the whole thing on the screen, he's like, Jason of Archaix is right. He says, I can't believe it. His video's still on YouTube. But it's real simple. Up to anything over the number 10,000 is just a reduplication of a lower number. You're just adding a number to a number. So taking the numbers 1 through 9,999, which represent all numbers in reality, taking the numbers 1 through 9,999, it is a very simple thing that you can do. All you have to do is subtract the difference between a number and its reflection. It's that simple. If a number, most numbers collapse to zero instantly. Like if you like any palindrome will collapse instantly. 414 minus 414, zero. Simple as that. But all numbers collapse to zero. Eventually, they go through what are called permutations. You just continue that exercise. It's so simple. Many of you have seen the videos. Many of you have seen that 2178 video. I do not know how it's possible, but I discovered it. I also discovered that it's connected to the Phoenix phenomenon. When you do that, every number in existence will eventually collapse to zero. Some of them will do it rapidly. Some of them require 2 or 3 permutations, and then they're a zero. But 2178 is the only number that does not collapse to zero. It becomes, when you take 2178 and you subtract it from 8712, its reverse, it becomes a number that itself collapses to another number that turns back into 2178. It is a loop. It creates a loop and it's just trapped there. Our arithmetic is moored to something that is real. We're not. Our arithmetic shows that 99.9% of reality is holographic. It's a mathematical construct. There is a modicum that is real, though, but it's moored to something, this loop that we can't get through from our perspective right now. It's amazing, guys. Some of y'all seen that video by that dude in India. He had shown it. So I've also shown on my channel that the Phoenix phenomenon is also in line with the fine structure constant. This is the one constant that unifies all physics principles into one idea. The fine structure constant is the ultimate constant of all physics measurements. That's why it's called the fine structure constant. It is the immeasurable measurement. They just don't know. It's almost like it's 137 point something, but it's not quite 138. But that's exactly what you would need in a linear projection in order to be able to measure historical events. It's exactly what's required because 138 plus 138 plus 138 plus 138, it's not 138 plus 138 plus 138. If there's no pattern break, then it's just 1656. 1 to 1656 is all you got. You can't even measure it as 138 plus 138 plus 138 plus 138. You can't. It'd be 552. And then 552 times 3 is 1656. Either way, they're both divisible by 138. My point is this. In linear history, which is what we experience, in linear history, you have to have a pattern break in order to have a timeline. That's what the fine structure constant is. It gives us that break that allows us to know one number from another. And it just so happens it lines up in between 137 point something and 138. And this is one of the greatest mysteries of science. But here it is, the Phoenix phenomenon. All right, now, also, the Great Pyramid. I don't want to get too many. I don't want to get into the chronometrical specifics of the Great Pyramid, but we can't ignore the fact that the entire Archaix chronology is 7,344 years from the Nemesis Cataclysm, which begins the Anunnaki nerve system of 600 years, and it counts 2,448 years. 2,448 years, 2,448 years, 3 periods of 24-48 years. And the only thing we have in the historical record that happened on a year that was 24-48 was the Exodus. In our calendar, it's 1447 BC. And that too is up for debate. And if anybody out there wants to debate what year the Exodus was, I will be more than happy to embarrass you. It was 1447 BC in the year 2448. And there's multitudes of books that have that date. Now, why is that significant? Because the Great Pyramid has everything to do with the Exodus from the construct. The apothegm of the Great Pyramid is 612 feet. The apothegm is the distance, this distance right here. Remember, the slope of the Great Pyramid from the last days of 1902 to 2106 goes up 204 levels, just like Ezra's 204 books of the last days. Goes up. That's the apothegm. The apothegm is the distance from the top to the bottom measured at a slope. The apothegm is precisely 612 feet. 612 feet is 7,344 inches. You can't make this up. From the bottom of the pyramid, its base, to the top is a countdown to the exodus of the construct. Who's leaving the construct? Those who have received a white stone. Those who have received a new name. Those who have been grafted into the monument of man. This is a monument of adoption, not bloodline and pedigree. Those who are focused on bloodline and pedigrees remain in the construct attached to their bloodlines and pedigrees. Those focused on race will remain with the race they're focused on. They will loop back in the construct. This is the whole program that we're in right now. And all the data sets show this over and over and over. That's absolutely amazing. So here's another thing we need to discuss. In Archaix, you will find that Jason hardly ever entertains when you send me topographical maps and ask for my opinion about, hey man, where's the best place to survive? The Phoenix phenomenon, what are we going to do? One, my informed field is not going to let me be a victim. Simple as that. It's I am now in the mode with the creator that if I died tomorrow, I'm comfortable with that. Whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to let that in my field. And I also know the oversoul will always provide an out. And that through all the resets and destructions of antiquity, the people who survived were those who were meant to survive. I'm comfortable with that. I am. But the main reason I don't entertain those is because they're bullshit. When people produce you a map of the world and tell you these are the safe zones and all that stuff, they can only do most basic approximates. People have tried to hammer me down, trying to get me to say this and to say that, and I can't. And the reason is because these maps do not take into consideration a single thing that always happens in the Phoenix phenomenon, and that is upheaval and subsidence. Remember, Machu Picchu, Pumapunka, Tiwanaku, Cuzco, they were not built at 12,000 feet elevation. Those cities were never built at that elevation. How do we know? Because Pasansky and several others found the ancient fossilized coastland, the ancient wharfs, the quays. They found the docking systems, all that stuff at 12,000 foot elevation. How do we know? Because Lake Titicaca has saltwater marine forms that have adapted to fresh water. It's a freshwater lake having sharks and seahorses. It's at 12,000 feet elevation. That's how we know. We also know because they say the Andes Mountains was created in a day. Listen, the Ogaigian deluge thrust the entire Andes that high. All those cities got thrust that high. They could never build. They can't breathe that. They can't breathe at that elevation in order to build those giant megalithic rocks and formations they've got there. Especially at Lucarmata, the giant pyramid of Tiwanaku. This has never happened. It never happened. All that was at sea level. So if that can happen in a day, just like in 1902, another Phoenix phenomenon date, in 1902, what do we have? We had the scientific surveys around the Caribbean, around when Mount Sefre, the volcano in St. Vincent, and Mount Pelée exploded on Martinique and killed a total of 60,000 people together. When this happened in 1902, scientific soundings had already been conducted in the area and showed that the sea bottom was 400-foot depth to 600-foot depth. That's pretty deep. But after both of those volcanoes exploded, the sea levels didn't change. The sea's still the same. But the entire sea bottom of the Caribbean over there dropped 3,400 feet. We have Davis Island that disappeared in 1767 or 1787. Listen, we have too many historic examples of geological upheavals and subsidence. In the year 1755, Lisbon, Portugal suffered an earthquake, but actually the earthquake was transcontinental. But in Lisbon, everybody ran to the old quay because they knew it was bedrock. Everybody went to the quay, and 60-something thousand people were gathered on the quay, and they were boarding all these ships trying to escape the quaking, because the quaking continued. None of them have ever been seen again. The entire quay just sank. The water came in, sucked all the ships in. Nobody survived. Not a single article of clothing was ever found. Yeah, true story, guys. It's in my Chronicon. It's also in a bunch of published books. Yeah. You can't predict safe zones because even the subduction zones just aren't known. You're not going to be able to predict where is actually safe. You're going to have to be led by spirit to understand that. All the elite building the elite are building in Hawaii and in New Zealand. Is that a psyop? I mean, why would you build in Hawaii? In 16 years, I am very confident that will be gone. Yeah, the Pacific is the worst place for long-term planning. Worst place for long. Just near Hawaii, you have the Carolinas. You have the island of Yap. Metalanon is an ancient city that was destroyed in 1687 BC in the Ogaigian deluge. Look at it. It's sideways, and more than 90% of it's underwater. Just some of it's on top of the island. Yeah, it's called the city of Metalanon. Yeah, large skeletons, elongated skulls. It's crazy, guys. I would never build in Hawaii. Let them. Let the elite go over there. Let Oprah do all that in Hawaii. Let their dumb asses sink. They deserve it. Dumb. Stupid. Now, if you want my opinion, I'm going to tell you now. You don't want to be anywhere in the west of the Rockies in the United States. All that, I don't believe California is going to make it for multiple reasons. Also, east of the Appalachians, I don't believe it's going to be good. Appalachian Mountains are good, and we're seeing a lot of high traffic into the North Carolina and all that too. I was in Asheville last year, and I couldn't believe how many new people were all moving in. The locals are kind of getting pissed because it was Republican conservative, but it's quickly turning to liberal because all the people who effed up New York are now moving to Asheville, North Carolina. It's crazy. Oh man, somebody's blowing me up. All right, hold on just a second, guys. I don't know if she's trying to hit me up from the hospital. Oh, I'm just getting updates about her. That's good. Cool. All right. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Listen, after I leave this video, feed all the dogs, and then I'm gonna head over to the hospital. So yeah, I just my opinion is stay away from coastlands, and my opinion is old mountain ranges like the Appalachians is a good bet. It's a real good bet. Canada, a good bet. It's a real good bet. Anything south of the 30th parallel in the Western Hemisphere is terrible. Anything north of the 30th parallel in the Eastern Hemisphere is terrible. Yeah. Going to move. Great pyramids in the center. All land masses are going to move like a disc. I don't care if you believe in a world. I don't care if you believe in flat earth. It doesn't change the dynamic. The Great Pyramid is the center. It's the pivot. It's all going to move 30 degrees. And believe me, the movement isn't what does the destruction. It's when the water catches up with the land. Let's see. So yeah, also, what Archaix has brought to the table is the origin of the very calendar that you know today, the Anno Domini calendar. I have never seen anywhere in any published books all the data that I put together to show you how the Roman Catholic Church basically invented a chronology to make sense of the Justinian plagues and turned all these disasters all over the world into the Justinian plague period, but had to create a new calendar in 526 AD to hide the 552-year Phoenix calendar. How do I know? Because they said it, and I quoted those texts. Yeah, old books, guys. You think all history's been erased? That's BS. They only editing they've done in history really is socio-political. Do away with misdeeds and invasions and make themselves look better and all this. But the type of stuff I research, there was no reason for them to edit all that out. They probably never would have believed anybody would have went through all this and found all this data and put it together in a cohesive chronology. Probably never would have thought. So the old books contain gems of knowledge. Yeah. Do they contain a lot of misinformation? Yeah, just like new books do. Yeah, by the time you receive information on Archaix, it's already passed through all of my filters. So yeah, you'll find that out real quick, on my channel about the Anno Domini calendar created by the papacy. Sure did. They bragged about it. Damn, it's already been 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm not done. So other things that okay, from a totally different species of analysis. On my channel and in my published books, I produce at least 60 to 70 isometric projections showing the palindromic nature of reality without using any of the prophetic material from the Bible, Mother Shipton, Nostradamus, other whatever records I've used, without using Zoroastrian, without using any of the prophetic material, completely eliminating the Phoenix phenomenon from the equation, completely eliminating the Great Pyramid timeline from the equation, completely eliminated any socio-political, like MIT says that the world's going to be almost destroyed in 2040, completely eliminating that data, just showing the isometric patterning of historical events. What happened in this year? It's an equidistant amount of years to this year, or something similar happened, an equidistant amount of years to 2040. Just using the isometric method, I have overwhelming evidence eliminating all data sets. Just the isometric projections alone, over 60 or 70 of them published for you to see, showing that 2040 is going to be a real bad year for a lot of people. Same thing, using isometric projections and eliminating the Nemesis X object, eliminating everything about 2046, what Douglas Voigt said about 2046, everything, and sticking only with the palindromic nature of the sequencing of events. I showed 2046 is going to be a terrible year. So, palindromes found in unfolding events. You're going to see them, a lot of them. In my videos, I show these pyramid-looking charts. These are palindromes. This is way beyond calendrical isometrics. These are palindrome charts starting like the year 1998 or the year 1902, and then I'll show you how events ripple off from that. This is a third method. It's undeniable. I just showed one a couple days ago on 1902. And how the Civil War and the Great War, World War II, how they perfectly mirror each other, battle for battle, all that stuff. Yeah, guys, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't. So it boggles my mind that so many people just don't want to talk about it. It's amazing what's really happening. Yeah. So we're here's a fourth species of analysis that has nothing to do with the individual chronologies of the objects themselves. Cross-calendrical parallels. I've given you, there's so many of them documented on my channel, but a cross-calendrical parallel is something simple like in the year 2046 of the old world's calendar, the Nemesis X object appeared. In the year 2046 of the old world's calendar was the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. It was the destruction of all the Sumerian cities. It is the subject matter of the lamentation text of ancient Sumer. It's the destruction of all these cities in Sodom. This is the year 1849 BC of our calendar. But 1849 AD is the exact year the stone tablet records, the lamentation text describing this destruction, were found in Assyria and excavated. You can't make that up. 1849 BC was when they were destroyed. 1849 AC is when they were discovered. It just so happened to be 2046 Annus Mundi on the ancient system, but in 2046 of our calendar is when our infrastructure will be totally destroyed. Can't make this stuff up. I've also shown in Archaix, I've shown the repetitive timelines. Many repetitive timelines. It's almost like cookie cutter stamped periods of history. It's crazy. And how chronology and chronometry are all self-referencing. In my book, Anunnaki Homeworld, I show how even the crop circle phenomenon, there are ways to interpret crop circles. It's the exact same formula. Apply this formula and you will see what it is. Because in the 1990s and early thousands, many of those crop circles, they had little tiny comets in them and little solar system looking things. But I show in my book, Anunnaki Homeworld, the agroglyphs are real. They're being created, but they're created by a technology. They are not UFOs and aliens, and they're not coming down here doing all. It's not ETs trying to communicate with us, because extraterrestrial biological entities would have found a much easier way to do that. This is a technology, and it's being used in the underworld. Those agroglyphs are telling us dates, and I show this in my book. Many of those agroglyphs, crop circles, pinpoint 2046. Yeah, these are geometrical ways of looking at time. And I explain how you decode them. And once you see the pattern, it's easy. You can do it yourself. So, what Archaix has also brought to the table through the historical record is that we have a benefactor. There's a force here. There is a force here that protects us. While the construct and the construct's protocols are pumping out that fear, there is something that actually serves to benefit us. It protects us. It makes us aware of the things we need to be aware of. There's a spiritual aspect to this experience that goes far beyond the material. Evidence of a benefactor is all throughout history. The fact that you don't have a collar around your neck and some rich girl is whipping your back, making you pull her chariot down the street while you're ass naked in front of a whole city full of people is proof that you have a benefactor. Because if you didn't have a benefactor, then most of the world would be slaves to a very small group of people who would be treating you like an animal. You wouldn't even be allowed to have a vocabulary. Yeah. So also in Archaix, I show a lot. Archaix. The apocalypse is not about the end of the world. The apocalypse is the uncovering. It's the uncovering. It started in the 1300s when the Great Pyramid, by earthquake, had its mantle removed. And for the first time in human recorded history, people got to see that the Great Pyramid was levels of blocks. They didn't know because it had 100-inch thick white limestone casing blocks. Did you ever wonder why the city of Cairo is white rock buildings with white rock mosques? Didn't ever wonder where all the rock to the Great Pyramid went? The Great Pyramid at one time was much bigger. It was 100 inches thicker all around its sides. But this is what protected it when it went under the Mediterranean for 340 years. But the uncovering began first with the Great Pyramid, and then 7 centuries later, it begins now in 2020. The apocalypse, the unfolding, the unveiling began in 2020. That's when people started waking up. I mean, people have been waking up for 20 years, but that's when it really started. The COVID narrative woke people up quick. It showed who's awake and who's asleep. So it shows the unveiling, the apocalypse to uncover is basically it's presenting the situation, a bifurcated situation of those who are fearful will be given many reasons to fear. Those who are not fearful will also be given many reasons why they should not fear. This is the great separation that's happening. So the COVID narrative was the first seal. Apollo Pharmakia attacks the human family. I've already gone into that. Greek Olympiad timeline, we're done with that. Second seal unfolds this year. Second seal unfold. It's going to be massive protest, massive knife attacks, small arms fire, not all out war. Knife attacks, small arms for. It's going to be huge migrant populations rising up. It's going to be a lot of violence against Jewish targets by Muslims, migrants. It's all premeditated. It's all financed. It's all part of the book, but it's not the end of the world. It is simply to take peace from the earth. And a part of the agenda that's about to unfold to take peace from the earth also involves what happened in 2020. People think that something worse is going to happen because of those who took the jab and all that. That's not. This is psychological warfare. Yes, some things were pretty harrowing that we've been finding out. But I'm going to tell you now, the real psychological warfare is when sometime in 2024, this year, it's going to be officially presented that, yeah, man, this was a conspiracy. Yeah, they put this in there and did this. But at the same time, they're going to put it out. No one made you take that. You did that on your own. And that's a part of the psychological fuckery that's going to start unfolding in 2024. It's all about taking peace from the earth, but it's not about the end. And if you don't want to be a participant, there's a real easy way that you can do that. I tell you all the time, fear makes you a participant. The whole world, even in World War II, it was terrible in some areas of Europe, but in other areas of Europe, it was bright and sunny days, not evidence of war. Life continued on. Villages were absolutely untouched. Fear makes you a participant. What you entertain, you buy into. Let's see. I think I'm almost wrapping this up. I'm just trying to show you guys that nothing in the Archaix data requires simulation theory. Nothing. Every one of these data sets stand alone. And there's so many of them, I understand it's overwhelming. And that's why very soon I will be starting my Archaix Academy. Tuition is going to be very low. I want people to be able to afford it. You guys know my character. You guys know I'm not out here trying to make a buck. I'm comfortable, but I'm going to have to charge something for it. And it's going to be charged by semester, so you can take what you want to take. And then there's going to be those who want to go deep. But I'm putting the syllabus together right now for Archaix Academy. That's not only going to go into this stuff, but go deep off into stuff I've got notes on that I haven't even I told you about, but I haven't had time to put on YouTube yet. I've got amazing stuff, but I want anybody who's gone through the Archaix Academy to be equipped with all the data to, no matter who gets in your face talking that BS about anything, you will be fully equipped to take apart their entire paradigm and do it with legitimate data. Simple as that. That's all I want. So we'll be cranking up doing that soon. So this is all about, I don't want to get into simulation theory, but we have to entertain the fact that I've shown examples many times about breaking pattern and what it does when you experience dungeon programming. If you need to go into those videos to understand dungeon programming and how it governs your life. It governs my life. It governs everybody's life, but there's ways to break free. That's why I say break free or die trying. There's ways to break free. Dungeon programming is something you're going to experience every single day, but you can also break free. The construct cannot predict your behavior. It can only make assessments where it thinks it knows what you're about to do, but it doesn't quite know. Breaking pattern is the best way to bring new experiences into your life. So we have to understand though that there are things that do hint to a simulated environment, but maybe it's just a programmed environment. We've got Mandela effect, we've got synchronicity, deja vu, coincidence, all these things. They don't make sense outside the context. They don't make sense in a physical reality. They don't make sense in a physical reality at all. For years on my channel, I've been telling you guys. Oh, and Billy Carson reminded you in his very recently published book that we don't live in a physical reality. We don't live in an. Oh, he said we don't live in an actual reality. We live in a perceived reality, which is exactly what I've been saying for years on my channel, and it's true. Kudos to him for using that. I know he doesn't listen to me. I'm done with this presentation, guys. I'm done with this presentation. It went on longer than I thought. I need to get to the hospital, go check out baby. And I just wanted to put a good presentation out there that you can show people that, look, this has nothing to do with simulation theory, which is nothing but a personal conclusion that I have based off myriads of data sets. You don't have to adopt that at all. I believe it, but that doesn't mean everything I say is untrue. So thank you guys for hanging with me all that time. I'm going to get something to eat and head on over to the hospital. I know she'll probably read y'all's comments here in the comment section later. I haven't been able to look at any comments, guys. I check out to see how my moderators been doing. They're normally great. I just haven't had time. I was in full beast mode. But yeah, I love you guys. I'm gonna hit this outro if I can find it. How do I lose an outro on my own deal?